Welcome to Plat Chat Overwatch episode 228. We got our first episode after OWCS Dallas, and this week we're joined by Gator and Casores, as well as Jake. Just woke up, Jake. Did you get enough caffeine? Did you get a shot of espresso?
No, I'm drinking it now though. I'll get there.
Okay, I'll get there. Yeah. Okay, I'll give you a couple of minutes there. Guys, how we doing? Got back to Dallas all right? Or got back from Dallas rather?
Doing all right. We took a couple days break post Dallas, and now we're ready to lock back in for the whole Face It League fiasco.
Okay, we'll dive into that and what that means. Gator, how about you?
Doing good. Taking a break as well, so not much going on.
Yeah, did you have a match yesterday?
We did have a match versus Luminosity yesterday, actually.
Okay, how'd it go?
We had to play with the sub, but we still won, 2-1. You know.
There we go.
You know, it is what it is. You know what I mean?
It is
Pretty easy work for Nero.
Gator hasn't lost it yet. He hasn't lost his touch.
He hasn't lost a step, you know.
He hasn't lost. Yeah,
baby.
he hadn't played in 3 weeks. You know, and I messaged him 30 minutes before the match if he could play, but you know, he took care of business on the Genji.
He's like a sub for the team, right? He tweeted out that he's not actually like officially on the roster. He just like showed up game time.
Oh, he's definitely just a sub. He's there. It's more of him doing us a favor when we need a favor. That's pretty much it.
Is he in scrims at all?
No, never.
He's a friend of the team, all right? He's a friend
Yeah,
of the team.
yeah. You know how that kind of goes. He's a friend of the team, and he'll come help when you need, kind of thing. That's about it.
My Face It League team has like 8 people in that position because we just don't scrim, and we just on the match day we're like, oh shit, we're missing 2 players. We need a support. Mauga, how's your Lucio? Like,
no, that was me yesterday. I had 10 people in the roster. I'm trying to find 5 that are willing and able. That's it.
You're like M8 is like one of the best teams in NA2, and you're just struggling to field the roster. Like,
no,
oh my god.
I got guys in Discord arguing. No, you got it today. I can't do it. I can't do that game today. I'm done.
Oh my god. Well, we gotta talk about this. We gotta discuss this later on. Jake, though, you get enough coffee yet? How are you feeling?
I did. I'm ready to rock.
Do you feel like you can read a document for me?
Should I take it away?
Just take it away. Go for it.
All right. Guys, I'm here to talk about one of our sponsors here on Plat Chat, Manscaped. Fellas, blink if you haven't purchased a Father's Day gift yet. Yeah, we thought so. Today's episode is brought to you by Manscaped, the leaders in below-the-waist grooming. Maybe your pops has had a bush since the 70s, and that's okay. Our friends at Manscaped have crafted the total package for his special day. Whether it's for the boys downstairs, his beard, or even the best pair of underwear out there, Manscaped has his bases covered. Head over to manscaped.com and get 20% off plus free shipping with the code PLATCHAT.
There you go.
From daddy to zaddy, trust Manscaped.
There you go. Great job, Jake. Great job.
I don't know if I think my dad needs this. He's been growing out the beard. He's been looking. He's retired. You know, he's like chilling.
Oh no.
I got to get him to lock in. You know, get clean shaven. He's been clean shaven his whole life. Let's be honest, the beard, it ain't it. I'm gonna say that because my dad doesn't watch this.
Father's Day is next Sunday, so if anyone's watching and you still haven't bought a gift, you got a week. You got a week to use code PLATCHAT. Order it, get it for your father. There you go. All right, thank you, Jake. Well, that's not all. Okay, because we do have Manscaped sponsoring the show, but also for this episode, we gotta talk about Factor meals. That's right. Warmer, sunnier days are calling. Fuel up for them with Factor's no prep, no mess meals. Meet your wellness goals in time for summer thanks to the menu of chef-crafted meals with options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus. Maybe that's something for Merit, Casores. Maybe we'll get Protein Plus for Merit. And Keto. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are dietitian approved and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. So no matter how busy you are, you'll always have time to enjoy nutritious, great tasting meals. This is great, for example, if you're playing ranked, if you're just grinding ranked 10 hours a day, which all the pro gamers are, you know, maybe if you're streaming like Rack Attack, you know, maybe get some Factor meals, you know, perfect in the middle of the stream, microwave it, heat it up, you got some food, ready to go. Queue up for ranked again. Make today the day you kickstart a new healthy routine. What are you waiting for? With 35 different meals and more than 60 add-ons to choose from with every week, you'll always have new flavors to explore. Crush your wellness goals this June with dietitian-approved meals and ingredients that you can trust. Make your day delicious from breakfast to dessert. Stay fueled with easy, nutritious options. Yeah, that's right. You got pancakes. Look at that. Cinnamon roll pancakes. I'd eat some cinnamon roll pancakes. I haven't even had breakfast today. I need to use some Factor meals. Keep kitchen time to a minimum. Factor meals are ready in 2 minutes. No shopping, prepping, cooking, or cleaning up. Enjoy effortless support for your lifestyle. Choose from 6 menu preferences to help you manage calories, maximize protein intake, avoid meat, or simply eat well balanced, head to factorymeals.com/Overwatch50 and use code Overwatch50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That's code Overwatch50 at factorymeals.com/Overwatch50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active. There you go. There you go. We're ready to go. All right.
I like how you threw Merit in there, but we haven't even introduced like why you threw Merit in there.
That's
But,
right. That's
we were
right.
talking before
it
the
gets
show.
people
me and
curious,
Reinforce,
Casores.
we were talking about the most avid gym goers on Toronto Defiant, and I mentioned how Merit goes like 5-6 times a week. So maybe
Sheesh.
maybe some extra protein couldn't hurt.
There we
Yeah,
go.
he needs
Merit.
to, man. That's a lot of training. You got to have that high protein intake.
Yeah. What is it? 30 grams? 30 grams each meal? Get the
That's how many meals you eat.
Well, no, 30 meals? No, I meant 30 grams per meal. You gotta get the protein synthesis going, Jake. You know all this science stuff. You know all this.
Yeah. You wanna get between 20 and 40 grams per meal, but really the key is consistent intake throughout the day. You want to maintain a constant rate of muscle protein synthesis.
Here you go.
Throughout the day. There's
All
even
right.
some new research suggesting that you should have protein before bed, like a shake.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's what we're doing here on the talent team. Gator, you go to the gym? You and the M80 guys?
We don't have a facility, but we all live in our own areas. But I think three of us
Fitness 24
do.
or something?
Only three of us do.
All right.
No, Planet Fitness, man. It's the closest thing nearby, right? It is what it is.
You don't need a fancy gym.
No, you don't.
You need weights and a bench, and like, you can do everything.
No, most of what I do is just at home.
Mm.
I got one of those $30 pull-up bars on Amazon,
Yeah.
and then those perfect push-ups.
There you go.
I mean, you don't need that much. I mean, you don't need much more than that.
No.
You know, and some running shoes.
That's perfect. Well, no one tuned in for this conversation, and everyone's just want us to move on at this point. So,
Yeah.
what we're actually here to talk about is OWCS Dallas, of course, the first Overwatch major. And I figured, what better way to chat about this event than to get
The
North
two
America's
failures.
two best. No. I mean, if this was uncoachable, then yeah, maybe I'd set you up like that, especially because, they
Yeah.
represent the MEA. But we're not them, okay? We're
Okay.
Plat Chat. So,
All right.
I feel something excited, Gator. Just settle down,
Yeah.
okay? I'm not going to
I got
grill you.
it.
I'm not going
Okay.
to shit talk you all
I was
episode.
expecting that. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
This is the
Don't-
sunshine and roses.
Okay.
The
In
year
the
is
end,
young,
we just want
guys.
to talk
The
about the
year
same
is young.
thing, why we failed.
I came in here as a humiliation.
This
That's
could
about
be
it.
this could be a speed bump, but a speed bump if the year goes on.
A
for better
learning
things for North
experience
America.
for NA.
Understood. Okay.
You
Okay.
can take this into the
see,
Esports World Cup.
I see where you're coming from.
Yeah. All right. Well, I just want to start like zooming out, macro perspective, okay? Just like thinking about the event overall, as a whole. How did you guys, as coaches for teams, of course, how did you enjoy the event? If you had to like rate it like 1 to 10, how good was the OWCS Dallas major from a coach's perspective? Was it fun?
I
Did
personally
was the
think
tournament good format?
Is ranked quite well. I enjoyed it very much. I think, besides some technical difficulties on the first day, there being a second stage, which obviously isn't as good as there just being a main stage. I think, with the financial situation in esports and how Overwatch is right now is better than I expected, to be honest. Every team had their own practice room. There was enough PCs in each practice room. There was good availability. The spaces were giant. It wasn't like as scuffed as some events have been in the past, while I expected it to be more scuffed than events in the past, which was a pleasant surprise. There's going to be some hiccups. There's new people running it behind the scene. There's FACEIT coming in. But I think from a macro perspective, the event was ranked quite well. And from what I heard, the viewership was also pretty good.
What about you, Gator?
I think that shit was trash. Like, I'm gonna keep it real.
Yeah,
I'm
keep
not.
it real. You keep it real, dude.
No. All that the delays, the food situation. I did appreciate the rooms, having our own rooms. I did appreciate that, and the PCs were sick. And I will say the ops was great. Those guys did fine. All the FACEIT people, and then obviously all the desk stuff was great. You guys clutched up that somehow. But as far as the tournament itself, it was awful. It's quite obvious who's going to win. It's very boring.
So you're talking about the competition, like the matches.
Yeah, I
how
thought
it
we were
goes.
just talking about the event.
Yeah. But I mean, even the event itself, I didn't. It was. I mean, I guess we could say it was good for Overwatch in 2024, but I'm not going to say like that was not the worst Overwatch event I've ever been to. as a team, right? Like I don't, outside of like the scuffed Hawaii ones.
I feel like that's what I was gonna say.
Like,
Yeah,
I'm not
I was
gonna
gonna bring up the Hawaii
ones. Yeah.
tournaments.
Yeah,
There
but
were
that's
some
different.
scuffed tournaments in Overwatch.
Yeah, but
actually.
I'm like I'm just saying I'm not gonna act like the Overwatch ops team was not sick to begin with. Like it was always shit always ran so smooth. Like it was never an issue, you know. And there's a reason they downsized it, which is fine. But like it was all right at best, you know. It was cool considering it was actually better than honestly what I even expected, if I'm being honest. But I won't I won't sit here and say it was better than years past or anything. You know what I mean?
So what was different from your perspective? I mean, because like your opinion like that,
Yeah.
it can't just relate to like the tournament format, the map pick format, or like, you know, even you said the practice rooms was pretty good. So like,
Yeah.
you know, what were things you'd like to improve upon? Because we still have a DreamHack
Yeah.
Stockholm later this year. Like, what
Yeah.
improvements need to be made, do you think?
I just would like for them to improve the all matches on broadcast. I would like to improve the scheduling, the seating, the pick show. You know, classic complainer here, you know, played Crazy Raccoons first round, but like they probably should have had pick, right? Them and Toronto should have had pick who they played. Like there's all kinds of different stuff they could have done with that going into it, but they've taken all this feedback, so I think in the future they're gonna they'll implement some of this stuff. The food stuff, also.
What was the food stuff?
The food stuff they gave us these shitty vouchers. So I had to go hustling around going to get some Chick-fil-A and shit before matches. When like at World Cup they gave us essentially Uber Eats vouchers, and we just spent that every day, and it was really simple and easy. So just I think if they change a lot of the systems, that just some of the stuff that'll make it a lot easier on the team daily, because as also like we played matches until 11 p.m. right?
I mean, that first day was brutal, and we talk more about the tech issues, but I can't imagine from your perspective, like that first day, staying ready for a match and waiting, like that must have been.
Yeah, and then also imagine you have two DPS playing in grand finals. You have Hawk who on his one last ride trying his hardest, right? And then you're playing a match at 11 p.m. against Twisted Minds who aren't even trying. They're backstage saying, "Let's get this over with." Like it's like, is that really like the state of Overwatch in 2024? Like I know everyone else is making fun of it, but and like you know it sounds like a free win from us, but that's not like you don't stick around for that kind of shit. You know what I mean? It's not fun. It's actually boring. I think we would have beat them anyways, even if they had the regular roster. You know, like you go out on stage and you're playing at 11 p.m. in front of like 20 people. You know. So from our perspective, it was not good at all by any means.
I
You
feel
know.
like a lot of what you said though is about the like in-game stuff. Obviously, Twisted Mind shouldn't even be there, but what can they do about it? You know, they feel that the roster they need is a field, so you can't like invite somebody else. I think just the stage itself and the way things are ran, I was quite happy about. Just the first day. I mean, maybe because we just played Twisted Minds and then we got to go home. You know, we didn't have to stay till 11 p.m. Didn't leave as bad of a taste in my mouth. But I think for a lot of teams that had to play harder matches that day, it definitely did.
That would never happen in a Tier 1 esport, though, right? Like this, that would never happen in a Valorant. That would never happen in League of Legends at LCS. These guys aren't going to Shanghai right now with a team saying first round, let's just get this over with so we can go home. It's not a thing. You know what I mean?
But we're not a tier 1 esports anymore. My expectations were so low, you know. So maybe it was easy to be outdone. But I think if your expectations were like, you know, Overwatch League Grand Finals in Toronto last year, then, you know, of course you're going to be disappointed. I think.
Yeah. I mean, I still think there's some stuff there that we can like really discuss. What Gator brought up, the Twisted Minds thing. I mean, that's incredibly unfortunate, and I don't have an answer for that. Like literally. I don't know what the KSA situation was, but he was like, I'm retiring, I suppose.
I mean, he just quit because his teammates are dickheads. So
I feel like
there's nothing else to it.
I literally don't know, so I feel fine speculating about this because I have no inside information about this. But it seemed like the team tried to cut him to pick up like a Korean tank, and then they realized they're not allowed to do that. And he's like, "Well, fuck you guys. I'm not playing for you guys."
That's the yeah. Too, yeah.
Which I kind of get because like they did really well with him. I didn't think he was like a problem or whatever. I can understand you wanted another tank if you want like a more of a main tank player, since I think he plays more off tanks. But I think they wanted to cut him, and then he was like, "Yeah, I'm done, bro. Like you get your wish."
And then they couldn't get visas approved for.
No, I think they just weren't allowed to play the Korean players, right? Like Mag or whoever they wanted.
No, that's separate. Yeah, separate. So like that was one of the things. You couldn't field the Korean players who had already competed in Korea stage. Well, you know, that was one whole stage, whatever, pretty much. But then also you couldn't get visas for Quartz, for example, to go to Dallas and compete, and that's why you had 2 more subs. So essentially, that, I mean, that
was the death knell. But for me, even not having a tank player, like. Honestly, you're done for. Like, maybe you could be regardless. Yeah. Like the second worst team in the tournament, you know. But you like aren't gonna I don't know, like no tank player at this level. That's such a
They went from stage 1 champions in EMEA to not even being remotely competitive. So that sucks. But I guess that situation, like I don't have an answer for that. Like I don't know.
The
like,
visas,
what do you change in the rule book to fix
unlucky.
that?
Like how do you? They have the player on the roster and they can't get a visa. That's like screwed. You know what can you do?
Yeah.
I don't know much about the situation. You kind of need to like talk to a lawyer, I guess, to know like what happened there and who messed up. Was it them? Was it Blizzard? I mean, I don't know. They haven't really said much about the situation. It seemed like it was like don't you get that visa a long time beforehand? What I mean, they knew they were going to Dallas. Right, once they're stage 1 champions, they were guaranteed qualified.
No,
Exactly.
because they remember on stage 2, we waited. I think it was for Peps. Peps was also competing for that spot.
You're right. They had to make sure no other team did particularly well stage 2.
So they had like what, a month.
But I feel like maybe the thing is you could have a rule change for the KSA situation and be like, if a player on your roster, like let's say a player on your roster is like retired, i.e. they're not going to another team, they are not playing in OWCS, that allows you to sign a new player. Like if somebody actually quits, if they take their circuit points and they go join another team, you know you're screwed. That was on you. You traded them or whatever. But if they're literally like done, they quit the game. You would think, I don't know. I would feel like it's more okay to have leniency as far as in general. I feel it's more okay to have leniency just because I think that it's more important that we have a competitive LAN than like, yeah, I get how the circuit point qualifier works, but in the end, it's more for me. It's more important that we have like a competitive LAN and we don't have a team that should not be there. Like, I mean, I was like, I don't know, you guys on the broadcast, Johnny. You know, I was going pretty hard on this match. I was like, yeah, this is a joke match. This is gonna be.
Yeah, I mean, someone had to do it, and you were the guy who was like, they don't stand a chance. This is just like, you know, going through the motions. Like, yeah.
And, I mean, for me, it was obvious. Like, they're playing.
We're not gonna make shit up.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, for me, I keep it real on the broadcast. They are playing Torbjorn at a super high level. I mean. Not that it's never viable, but like it's like he's obviously like one tricking Torb. I mean, it's like it's a troll game.
Yeah, I mean,
it's like a troll rank game versus a pro team.
In the World Cup, there's been matches in the past where I've been like, they're an underdog, but they have like a 5% chance.
But that's because the World Cup is chaotic. The teams don't have much prep.
Exactly.
You can run
there's
crazy stuff. This is like the opposite of that. This is like these teams are locked in. They scrim all the time. You're not winning with some troll.
In World Cup, there's only 3 good teams. I think the thing for me that really hurts is like the circuit point thing in general isn't as good as it can be. You know, I feel like there should be more power for the orgs, less power for the players, because then, you know, if a player retires, you still keep the circuit point. But I feel like, you know, what you guys are saying is like so abusable, no? Like if a player retires, you can get a new one. So what if a player just says they retire, and you know you have a month to sign somebody, they don't play at all in that month, and then in 2 months they come back, you know, and the team just made that player retire so they could sign somebody else.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's like I agree, if everybody has goodwill, that's how the system should work, but the truth is motherfuckers that want to win won't have that goodwill, you know.
I also feel like who cares though if a team picks up a new player for LAN? Like, is that a bad thing?
I don't think it matters. I mean, Mayhem were signing Who Are You a fucking week before playoffs last year, and they were probably gonna like. I didn't care. I didn't care. Why would I care? Why would I ever not just want the best teams to be out there in like the highest level of competition? I wouldn't care. You think I would have cared if 5 Korean teams came to this LAN and it was hard as shit?
I mean, I do think it matters if, for example, you're like FTG or Yeti, and you're just like, well, I guess we're just gonna join M80 or Toronto Defiant.
Yeah, there has to be some kind of there can't be a system where you played to qualify, you didn't qualify, and then you like combine teams. You can't do that. But I'm saying you should be able to pick up players that did not play in a qualification at all. Sure. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I don't like, you should be able to get free agents. There's always a couple guys linger around that were on teams. You know how Outlaws got Bernard late last season. Like, you should always be able to get players who were not on teams. I really think so. That's how I think.
Then you get the situation where, like, you know, a team qualifies, that team practiced really hard, and there's just a couple upgrades you can make, you know, and a couple players didn't qualify, so you just want to make those upgrades, and you know, you make your players quit the team or you kick them out.
No, it'd have to be free agent players. Like players that hadn't played at all.
Yeah, so
there's so many out there.
Twisted Minds is a pretty scuffed example, but let's say Tree. I think Tree is the perfect example of this. Like, why couldn't a team pick up Tree and maybe play Tree at Dallas?
He couldn't. He was actually ineligible.
He's not old enough, right?
Yeah, he wasn't eligible for Dallas.
Oh shit! I thought.
Like, okay, say Kalush for instance. If say Shock wanted to pick up Kalush for Dallas, I wouldn't have had a problem with that at all.
I mean, Infected wanted to play, and Infected qualified. You know, and that team thinks like, oh, we can do better with collusion infected, and they just kick,
But-
infected like a week before. I get it, right? But
I mean,
I
this
feel like
mindset
there's
is why.
reasons why there's roster locks, and I feel like those
Yeah.
need to be more reasonable than they are now, but they shouldn't be gone completely. You know, the thing with like picking up who are you last year, that was bullshit. Let's be honest. But I think with like the system it is now, it's maybe too harsh, because you can't like. I think it was like April 28th or something that the roster lock for Dallas was. I think that's maybe too early, like way too early. But I don't think it should be gone completely now, where you can just keep swapping players even 2 days before the tournament. There needs to be like some balance there, and it hasn't been struck yet. But
Yeah,
There
maybe
needs to
it's
be
like a
some
month
roster.
out or something. Like the thing with KSA was weird is like, didn't he retire before the second qualifier? So he wasn't even playing in the second qualifier. I
Yeah.
mean, that team was like scuttled
I
from
mean, he retired like mid-stage 2.
from like 2 months ago. You know what I mean? 3 months ago. It was
Yeah.
like a really we knew they wouldn't be competitive for before they qualified. When we watched Team, I was like, well, Twisted Mind's
Yeah.
going to qualify now. They still can't really field a real team, and then it got worse, obviously, with getting even more subs. But I don't know. It's
Cass, what if when you guys qualify for Dallas, your main support or your flex DPS decided that they're retiring on the spot? Are you gonna show up to Dallas with Danny and not complain?
of course, I'm gonna complain and try to get a new one.
But you would say,
But-
but you would have complained then at the rules, right? So
But I
I
feel like there needs to be like like
that would be
now
so
it's
unfair in
too
Toronto.
long.
but like how can you get orgs to come in if the players have that much control where they can literally just screw over an org so easily, just because they decide they want to quit? Like that's not fair that you guys put that much money and you could have somebody just decide you want to quit. They just want to quit on
Yeah,
you a
but
month
it
before
was
tournament.
also like that in Overwatch League, no?
No, it wasn't.
Yeah,
That wasn't at all. No, you could sign players. I could have signed this player a day before the mid-season madness last year in Korea. They could have played. You could have signed somebody literally up until a week before you left for the tournament for
I think
playoffs.
they just changed it last year, but before that it was always like, oh, you know,
Well,
it's like a week
the
before.
Bernard
I
and
think
who are
that
you
it comes
example
down
is good,
to it.
right?
It's like really strange if a player decides to quit like a week before a big tournament, like a week before Dallas. They're just
Well, yeah, of course. A week
assholes
before is
that
different.
way.
That's
I mean,
different.
or
I
their
agree. A
team
week
is
is
such a
different.
limit.
yeah, a limit
But-
a
Yeah,
week before.
yeah,
like
that's
I'm
fair,
saying
that's
like
fair.
they should lock it like 2 weeks before, not 2 months before. And I think that's
Yeah.
really fair. Like Esports World Cup is still 1.5 months out, so I feel like you should be able to replace players. But when it's like that close, then maybe players won't retire. Like 99% of the time, players won't retire before a big payout's about to come.
Yeah,
you know?
that's true.
Yeah.
That is true. It's usually going to be a couple months before, at least, because
Yeah.
they're not thinking about the next tournament. They're like, I'm just done. I don't want to keep playing.
I do think there's something to be said though about very strict like roster rules in especially like an ecosystem in 2024 when there's even less certainty about tournaments you're playing and there's no franchises supporting the players. So like Overwatch League, pretty secure. You have contracts, these franchises. Whereas, I mean, this year, like the players I spoke to them, they're just like playing to have fun. It's a part-time gig. There's not enough financial support for them to really like make it full-time for most of these
Yeah.
people, right? So
Yeah.
like, why would you go the other way of like making it even stricter for role lock and or not role lock for roster lock and stuff like that? When some of these players are just like I can't, I don't, I need to figure out rent and stuff. I do need to figure out month to month stuff. So I can't put myself in a position to like force myself to play Overwatch for 1 or 2 months if I don't know what my financial situation is going to look like.
Yeah, but
So,
I do think if you make the roster lock like less strict and more flexible, teams like the top teams that do have contracts have an even bigger advantage, because those players will still be on the roster and you can like poach them 2 weeks before a tournament instead of having to
well,
like
poaching
do
I
that
think
in
needs to be
advance.
addressed.
Poaching's different. If they've been on a team, that's different. If you're
Yeah.
competing to make a tournament, you can't just swap teams. Like by
Right,
any
right.
means, really. I don't think
But I
that's
feel
fair
like
at all.
if a player says they retire, 99% of the time in Overwatch they won't retire. They just want to break. Like it's so stupid. Like retiring in Overwatch
for
is
me.
just so kappa. So
I think
you
I
could
was the
say like,
first.
oh,
I
if
think I
a
was the
player
first to do a
legitimately
fake retirement.
retires, it's like you don't know if they're legitimately retiring. They're probably
You don't
not,
actually
to be
know.
honest.
Yeah, you
so,
don't know.
So in that case, like if there's
Crimso,
goodwill,
retired coach,
yes,
player,
but people will
coach.
abuse it.
yeah, totally.
Yeah, maybe it's not a question of retirement. It just can be a question of a more like a later date on the roster lock, like more time to make changes, and for free agents, like you said, Gator, not like
Yeah.
you got fourth in the qualifier, come join the best team.
Yeah, that's different. I
Yeah.
do think it should be more loose in the system, though. I don't think there's any reason to have it too strict.
It's a good point, and it's good feedback as well, as we're figuring out this 2024 system. I do want to touch on a couple more things you talked about or mentioned, Gator. One thing was the kind of like opponent pick, and in the Overwatch League, I mean, we had opponent pick for the brackets. It was a fun little event, but this time around, because you have like 3 number 1 seeds from 3 different regions, and there's no predetermined like strongest region. We all know it's Korea, but for the sake of like seeding purposes, what would you like to see changed when it comes to seeding going into the event?
Just a pick system. But I don't think it's fair for me to sit here and say they haven't taken that feedback, because that is going to be used in Saudi. So I don't think a lot of the stuff I'm complaining about, they've actually taken feedback. I actually think the FACEIT people are really, really, really malleable in what they're willing to do and change. I don't want to like rag on them too bad. I'm just more or less saying these were the issues, but they actually are seriously actively changing them. So
I do think though ESWC can actually do a pick system much more reasonably, because now you have Dallas results. And so you could say very fairly that like, Asia, Europe, NA. So if you're like, you can have a hierarchical seeding of every single team that's coming to Esports World Cup. It's a little bit speculative, but you can have something. The problem with Dallas was like, I don't think you could really do a pick before like you can't rank the regions, although we obviously we can. We know Korea's strong, but like I think before the event, NA and EU would have seriously argued about who's stronger, or like both would have had a reasonable claim to say no, we could be better. It would be like, how do you, and even Korea is like, technically you can't really like prove that Korea is a stronger region. I mean, we all know if you're like have your eyes open, but
you could
at the
like
same time, that's not like
placement.
that hasn't been proven by results, which is how I feel like it should be. If it's going to be, you get a strategic advantage, you get to pick your opponent, then like you can pick Toronto Defiant first round because you're Korean. Like I don't know about that. I mean,
that's why
not that they would, but
that's why I think you should have like the top seeds of each region. Like for this tournament right now, they kind of should know, and I think for Esports World Cup they have a different format. But they should have done is the top 1 seed should get the first pick, and then they can pick from any region.
But who picks first? Of the first picks.
I think the way you do it now is that
that matters so much. Like being the third first pick is like that's kind of crap, like you don't have any teams to pick from.
Like if you're a Korea number 1 seed, I think you get first pick, and now we can say from the previous results in Dallas, so like EMEA number 1 seed, they get second pick, and then NA number 1 seed, they get third pick, and then maybe Korea number 2 seed gets the fourth and final, they get what leftovers or whatever. But I think that way, at least with Dallas results in mind, you can like list the different
honestly
regions.
With Dallas results in mind, it should be Falcons or Crazy Raccoon get first pick, Falcons get second pick,
but,
like
sure, but
like it shouldn't be we shouldn't pretend that oh, you're first in NA, you're first in Europe, you guys are really good. It's like, well, right now Korea's super dominant.
That route. Totally. But
what I think is crazy is that the format we added is like, I was really bullish on the format. I really want that. I love that format. I want them to I think that should just be the format for
the map pick. You mean
map pick? Maybe we should have a smaller map pool or something to like mitigate that. But I'm a huge believer in that format, because theoretically it should make it a lot harder to 3-0. But that's what's so crazy about Korea 3-0ing everybody, because people say, oh, like someone said this on the broadcast, like, oh, like Asia, they're experienced with this format. I'm like, it doesn't matter if you've played this format before. It doesn't make it easier to deal with the opponent having 2 consecutive full control map picks. That's not like experience. Oh, I've seen this before. It's like, dude, they could pick any map. Like you don't, that experience isn't that. Maybe it makes you better at picking maps. Maybe the Korean teams were like, they were more wise to like, I think in hindsight, they picked the Flashpoint pick early in the lower or the upper finals and the grand finals, was just because normally flashpoints are pretty similar, but New Junk City versus Surfasa is actually a huge difference when it comes to playing hit scan. It's like a really, really big difference between those 2 maps. And so they actually really wanted to prioritize the pick because it mattered, like strategically. Maybe they had experience to know things like that I wouldn't have thought of, frankly, before the event. Like that was just hindsight. But I don't think when you're playing a team, it might make you win in the end if you have more experience, but it doesn't make you 3-0. 3-0ing is like, you can just win on your opponent's 2 best maps. That's crazy.
Yeah, I agree. Also, first map pick for the first 2 rounds were predetermined as well. So
well,
the
that's
Korean
also
teams
because
literally did not get the pick the first 2 rounds as well.
That's also because the like the format has there's no predetermined seeding advantage in those rounds. Like there's no high seed, low seed, because they're different regions.
Yeah, luckily.
Yeah,
Would
that
you still
definitely
feel
needs
like
to
that was
change now. I
fair?
think with seeding coming in,
Yeah.
they should get rid of the predetermined map. They should just
Yeah.
have the higher seed, like whoever comes out of like, as the higher seed, which they can predetermine now, should get the first map pick. I feel like
And
the predetermined map pick was so RNG, it's really RNG.
Yeah. I think from now on, though, we can always carry over. Like Dallas, I don't think it would be reasonable because I don't think we had anything to start with. But now we can always carry it on. Like, whatever Esports World Cup happens, we take sort of the Dallas results and we figure out seeding from those and then impute that into who's getting first map pick. And then even at Stockholm, we can just look back. Okay, who did the best Esports World Cup? You get the map pick, based on seeding and stuff.
I want to go back to the map pick from a coach's perspective, starting with you, Gator. Having been around in the Overwatch League and we had the predetermined, modes in a row and all that shit. Now you actually get map pick. What was that like as a coach? Do you like it?
Yeah, it was I liked it a lot. I think it does make it significantly hard to get 3-0'd. We even versus London, for instance, we did the New Junk City as the 4th map as well, right? Like we wanted to take that win. I just think that if you add some map bans and some maybe hero bans, then I would like it even more. But I think it's a good system. I
Could be cool to have a
about
couple
it.
pre-series map bans. I like that idea. Like one
Yeah.
or two of the whole pool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
think we
nobody
talked
beat.
about that when I came
It's
on
weird though,
Plat
because
Chat
like
the first time,
Flashpoint,
Nate.
you could be like, you basically pick the Flashpoint by banning
Yeah,
one.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that would be a little problematic. Maybe
Yeah.
you're not allowed to ban Flashpoint.
Yeah, no,
until we get a
you
third
don't.
map in the Flashpoint pool, and you
Yeah,
can't ban.
I agree.
Even push is weird because it's like, I don't know, the push like NQS is like so different if you ban that. But then again, I mean, so is banning Gibraltar, so is banning Circuit. Those are really impactful bans.
Yeah.
Change the series a lot.
Yeah, Casores, what were we gonna say?
I remember like me and Jake when the first time I came on Plat Chat this year, we were talking about like a hybrid between both because I was talking about how I like the map bans, how it gives a lot of agency to the coaches, and then we obviously also like the Asia system, right? It makes a lot of sense with loser picks. So I feel like at the start of each series, why not do like a hybrid where teams can ban like maps? Obviously you can't really ban Flashpoint maps because then you're just picking, but you could ban like a hybrid map and an escort map. And then pick from the remaining maps. I think that'd be pretty interesting. I feel like both teams getting one ban for each mode could be too much though. So you need to like figure out equilibrium.
I feel like it
there.
should be more like you get maybe 2 bans or each for the whole pool. Like
Yeah,
you don't
you get the
to
whole
you don't get to
pool.
ban one every mode. I think one every mode is way too much. That's
Yeah.
way
I think
too
the
much
arguments
control.
against map bans though would be that you're making it more likely to be 3-0.
Yeah, that's true.
Because-
You devalue the loser pick. But I think
Exactly.
maybe, I mean, what if it's like 1 ban per series? Like, what about that? Like minimal bans, like literally you ban 1 map of the whole pool and it's not allowed to be Flashpoint.
I think honestly what they should do is just make a little bit of a smaller pool because especially with like perhaps hero bans coming in and there being more variety, I feel like what could be really strong is just make the pool smaller, keep this system, don't do predetermined map 1 and go from there. I don't necessarily think it needs to be like map bans have to be there, but I do feel like the 4 maps per like the first 2 modes, it's a lot to have to practice, and it makes some teams like really weak on some maps.
So like one less control
I
hybrid
feel like
and
you
escort.
could have 1 less control, 1 less hybrid, 1 less escort, and that would make the practice more efficient, especially with another variable coming in.
I like it. I like that actually. I was thinking that too. Like if we're gonna, since you maybe have to prep the whole pool, maybe the whole pool should be smaller. I mean, normally I wouldn't really believe in that. If we could like, you have power with bans, you can like basically avoid practicing maps. But if you don't have that, then a smaller pool is like another way to get there, where it's like, okay, you can just, it's more reasonable to expect you to be ready on every map if there's just not so many maps.
Yeah. There was one thing I want to talk about the map picks, and that was one of the kind of like issues we had on broadcast, which I felt especially like day 3, which I was like, we've seen a lot of circuit, and it makes sense. Like for a lot of teams, picking Circuit Royale was the best answer to some of these Asia teams playing Mauga, but it does kind of suck when a map like Circuit favors one composition like Sigma, for example, so much so that it becomes the default pick for a lot of teams. And I wish we saw more Route 66, for example. I mean, I wish we saw more Gibraltar, but obviously, you hesitate to pick Gibraltar against the Korean teams.
Don't pick that against Crazy Rex.
Exactly.
Don't be
But
doing that.
I do think it's an issue because previously when we tested stuff like this, it was always Kings Row. There was always like a couple of maps that saw like a lot of play all the time. So like, how if you're playing devil's advocate against this game mode, like how do we get away from the fact that Circuit gets picked so much of the time as a second map because there's so much value in that pick?
You have to. The problem, like right now with the Saudi map pool, is there's a lot of maps that people just don't like. And I mean, Jake, you know this. Like back in, I mean, it's always been a thing where there's always specifically players and staff prefer a lot of like specific maps. So I know it sounds weird, but you almost have to just put fan favorite maps in there. Like if you put Kings Row and Ilios and Gibraltar and Hollywood and like all the maps that people really, really, really like in the pool, you should just. Come tournament time, we should just select honestly, just the best maps in the game. And I'm sure you'll get a significantly like higher variety of maps in these series.
That's a good point, actually. People do just like avoid maps they don't like. Although Circuit, I think, is a disliked map. I think people pick it for like strategic.
It's a win. It's a win. Yeah, you're doing it for a win. But I'm telling you, I don't think anybody likes playing Root. I'm gonna be honest. Like you should, there's this. There's a lot of teams that. That's fair, but there's a lot of teams that love Shambali. There's like Shambali teams. There's Gibraltar teams. True. Like there's Junker teams. There's teams that prefer like. And I assure you, say if you let Cass pick what he thinks are the most liked maps for coming up for Saudi, I assure you, every map will be getting picked. He knows all the teams like to play. They pick these maps in scrims every day. Everybody knows what everybody's favorite maps are. So if you just picked everybody's like favorite maps, I think you'd have a better variety in general, rather than just picking a variety and then hoping that people are going to pick them. It's just not going to happen.
I don't hate that. Like we don't need. I mean, we don't need the map pool to like quote showcase every map.
No,
I think it really. I mean, other than Push and Flashpoint, hopefully we get a third Flashpoint. Even just a third Flashpoint, but I think be really good. Even though Flashpoint doesn't inherently is going to have less variety in a way due to like the nature of the game mode. It needs to be like 5 points in an X, or else it doesn't really work. But I mean, I think we saw in this tournament how different Saravasa and New Junk City are, and that had a huge strategic impact. So that could be cool. And then, I agree. I think the map pool for the tournament doesn't need to be random or whatever. I don't know exactly how they determine like what maps will be in the pool, but I agree that we should consult. Like, just bring me in. I'll be like, no, don't.
Don't put consulted in the past.
Teams are just
I
so
haven't done
biased,
recently,
though.
but there
Teams
was
are
also
so
like we
biased.
want to make a pool where all strategies have a chance, and so Circuit suits that
I
Sigma
agree.
comp, right?
This Saudi map pool doesn't have a lot of dive maps. I'm actually quite happy about this. I mean, this is like a good map pool for Western. I really think there's almost no like really good dive maps. They took out Gibraltar, they took out Ilios, they took out, and then there's going to be map bans and potentially hero bans as well. It's like, well, this quite favors away from Korea actually now finally.
I'm super excited for the hero bans. Maybe we can wait to talk about that. But I think
we'll bring it up.
I'm worried about the implementation of the system.
Yeah.
I heard different things about it. I don't know where it landed about like the exact implementation, but like you said, I've heard Face is very open to feedback. I was talking to Marty about this. He's on some of the comp ops there and like trying to get the system right. Because I've argued for hero bans for a long time, but then I feel like back in the Overwatch League did it was like I was so tilted. I was like, I wanted to do this, and you put the worst possible implementation of the system that is indefensible for me when the Overwatch League did it. And I was like, it should never take away agency. It should be like agency for the players, not RNG pre-selected crap.
For an entire stage,
Yeah.
I think both fans and teams just hate RNG, The more RNG introduced into like a tournament or a system, the worse it is. So if they do hero bans, they have to do it like in the like hands of the teams. Like teams and players
Agree.
need to
And
be
I think
able
it's so much. It actually is an
discuss about
interesting thing if it's in the hands of the teams. If it's RNG, it's like I guess like well weird, but okay.
I mean, the hero pools format sucked in 2020. That was pretty atrocious. Casores, did you have an opinion on the Circuit Real thing before we move on?
I think Circle Real is a natural pick because it's the furthest away from the KOF map you just lost, And I think a lot of the teams coming in have just ground tanks. So when you're up against a dive team, you need to pick Escort first because those are the most dive-heavy maps. So it's pretty natural that teams would go for Circle Royale, especially when they have like a Sigma player. right? Like if you have a Sigma player, you know the enemy team doesn't have as good of a Sigma players as yours. It's just the most different map, so that's why I got picked the most. But we also saw Root in the upper finals. We saw Jib like twice or 3 times even. So it wasn't just Circuit. I just think like teams with Sigma players just default to Circuit.
Yeah, we did Havana too. Like we kept picking Havana.
Yeah, we had 2
General, 'cause
Havanas as well.
we wanted to get the hell away from Jib as fast as possible as well.
Yeah,
But
maybe I'm
but
being
we didn't
unfair.
want to. Yeah, but we didn't want to play poke. We wanted to play like a 3-fight comp. So I think those 3 maps were really good. The route just didn't find its way in there. But I think the other 3 got picked quite often.
Yeah.
Root's a weird map, but I do feel like, I mean, all right, so competitively, I feel like Root is kind of flawed because it's so full holdable. Like, first 2 points are like very commonly full held.
Yeah.
But I also feel like that makes for super hype games because people full hold or they hold on second and you think, oh, like that defense was so good, they're going to win. But it's like, actually, it's kind of like 50-50 if you hold on second. It's like,
Yeah.
you could easily get full hold on first. That's like very normal on Root. And so people, I think that like it makes it really fun, I think, for the audience. So I'm like, even though I think it's a weird map, I think that's how defender favored Root seems to be, or at least how winnable it is to full hold and second point hold, and then do the same to the opponent. Like even though you got full held, you could still win. I think
Yeah.
that makes for like some super hype games. So cool map.
Yeah.
That's
I think we should save hero bans towards the end of the episode after we talked about the event a little bit, because I have one more question about like the format and the setup, and then we can talk about the actual competition, the matches, and the team's performance in the competition. One thing you mentioned like 40 minutes ago now, Gator, was all matches being broadcast as well. And to play devil's advocate, B streams, that is a thing in esports, in a lot of different esports. But maybe at this level of competition, maybe at this main event, B streams are, I could defend it for a stage finals, or not stage finals, but stage playoffs, for example. The first round in each stage playoffs. At an actual main event, like a major like Dallas, I could see maybe how playing matches backstage, and I think both your teams played matches.
We didn't play
I
any
think just
backstage.
us.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you didn't, because you played Crazy Raccoon. But
Toronto just
Toronto
played
Defiant
Twisted
did for
Minds.
sure. Yeah, you played Twisted Minds. Yeah. So, Casores, let's get your opinion then. As a team that kind of like played on the B stream backstage, how was that different? What are your thoughts on playing backstage to begin with, coming to Dallas?
So I really wanted to like get the first map or like the first match in as like a warm up for the rest of our matches. But to be
And you
honest,
got to
playing
play Twisted
backstage
Minds.
is just like playing at home. You don't get to play on the stage.
Oh, I see.
I asked if we could use our in-ears, and they said no. You just have to use the headset. So it was nothing like playing on stage. We tried to even simulate it to be like on stage, but they just didn't let us. Or there was just not, no, it's not like they didn't let us. There was just not the capabilities or the, thinking of we wanted to do that beforehand. And it was just completely different. It's like playing at home. There's no crowd. There's you got the seats next to each other, and the setup was fine, right? The PCs were good, the chairs were good, but it's not the same. So even though our match was probably the best one to do on like a B stage, I would have liked to take it as an opportunity to like get used to the stage, but we didn't get to do that. And in turn, our first match on stage was against Crazy Raccoon, which M80 also had to do, right?
Yeah, those guys do play on stage all day long, and NA players are just fucking known for choking as well. So you can't like they all need to get up there really as fast as and soon as possible for as long as possible, before important matches. So I think, I think it would have been nice for at least Toronto, but
I will say for the reality of the situation, given it's DreamHack, is like you have like this 3-day event. How do you play? Like we basically played 2 extra matches on day one on the B
you can't
stage.
really fault it.
But like, how
really
do
can't.
you can't, unless you're gonna play 5 matches for the first 2 days, which I mean, all right, it's not fair because the crazy technical delays on day 1, but it was like, thank God we were playing on the B stage on day 1, and then so you could play 2 extra matches, but then it would be weird because like, or if you play 1 extra match on day 1, you sort of play like an odd number, like some team is screwed on day 1, and then day 2 we play 5 matches, like, you know what I mean? It'll be like you did one part of the bracket but not the other, and doing it the way they did with the 6 matches on day 1 with 2 of them on the B stage, where you're able to play like a symmetrical parts of the bracket. You're not saying like, well, you're also in the upper bracket but you got to play again today, like that, which I feel competitively the system made the most sense in terms of like different ways to do it. You could also play all 6 matches day 1 on the main stage, but like that would be an incredibly long day, even if no tech delays, right? Like 6 matches in one day, they're not gonna do that, man. Like from a broadcast perspective, that's crazy. That like
Yeah.
I mean, people on like a certain number of hours on the day for the crew. You're paying everyone overtime to do this, and then like I mean, if we had tech delays like we had in day 1, it's like you're screwed. Like you actually just fail to run the matches. You're gonna like push it to tomorrow or something. I mean.
Yeah,
that's so bad.
I think day 1
from a
was
production
like
standpoint, that's like the nuclear failure.
Yeah, I think it was a 14-hour day from us. So like,
Yeah. We had a super long day. Also, basically, like that means all the crews getting paid overtime, which I know people don't really care about, but like that's like a means major cost overruns, and it's not good.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have like a different solution for it, except for you need to add more broadcast days. But obviously, 3 days is already long enough, and adding a first day would be maybe too much. But I do feel bad for like Energy Shock, who lost backstage. They even got to do the walkout on stage, got pronounced as Energy Shock, and had to go play backstage, to play their game. And then the second game, they also, in the losers bracket, get blown out the water, and they took a map.
They won a map, man. They won Gibraltar.
They won a map, but they got to play one map on stage and got knocked out in day 1. At least they got to play on stage.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I hung out in some of their streams afterwards, and I think Rack Attack did a video talking about it as well. But they were like, it was their first event. They've never played on stage before, and they were like, they hadn't practiced with the in-ears, and they were just like, this setup, we're just so unfamiliar with what it's like playing on stage. And anyone who's played on stage can say that it is very different from playing at home. Like the game just feels different, the setup is different. You got the white noise as well in your headset. Like everything's just really weird in that regard. And so I do feel for the NRG players, because they were like, we've never, like one of the players literally like start like a flashpoint map and was like, I think I have my inners in the wrong way or something. Like I think they legitimately had to like pause the game or something, because one of the NRG players had it the wrong way around. He was like, shoot on my left, and then like he had the audio on the right or something. So yeah, it was scuffed. I feel for the NRG guys, because obviously they weren't accustomed to that experience. But
yeah, I will say there's like things about the game competitively that are just different on LAN. Like in the normal game, you're playing scrims. If you want to like do a sneaky flank, you need to be crouch walking the whole time, because people will like absolutely hear you. But on LAN, I don't care. Just Thunderfoot the whole flank.
Yeah.
So you're like, it seems like a small thing, but it means your flank timing can be so much more aggressive and faster. And honestly, I think it makes playing like faster and more aggressively like better on LAN, and playing like confident and not playing safe. Like playing safe is better, since you can like control all the variables. You can play really safe and effective on scrims and at home. But then on LAN, it's like, no, just turn up the aggression, make plays, risky flanks, pushing the tempo. Like that goes way better. Not only because people are a little more flustered, but also because you don't hear the footstep flanks. I mean, they're never gonna fix that either, because it's a relatively subtle sound cue in the game, and it's just too loud. Whether it's white noise or the crowd or whatever. I've never seen a LAN setup where you could actually like theoretically you can hear the footsteps, but in reality it gets lost. And so you can just run around on like in the show match, I'm just running on Junkrat. I know they can't hear me. Like I'm zero, like in a ranked game I wouldn't do that, because the people will freaking hear me coming and kill me. But yeah, it's one of those things that you kind of need to experience and like see what makes LAN different. And in the end, yeah, they could have one more game on LAN, but like, I guess it just depends. I don't know. For me, maybe that first game could be pretty rough.
At least I'm glad like everything was broadcasted, and everybody could find their team play, even if it's with a B stream, due to time delays or time restrictions.
yeah.
To be fair, I don't think that changes much though, as far as like you don't start playing and then, if we just like played a couple matches, we would have been playing
100%.
significantly better. You know what I mean? So I can't make excuses for like any of the 3 NA teams at all by any means.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
everybody's
someone
uncomfortable.
didn't have enough LAN experience, so it was a little.
Yeah, right. Yeah. The 3 world champs, and then
world champions,
my 4 guys too. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
Almost everyone is LAN experience.
Yeah.
I just felt for the NRG guys, because they rocked up and they were like, we've never done this, and they were like, I like their vibe, because their vibe was just like, we've never done this, and we don't have high expectations, but they were just having a good time, and it was fun for them. So I'm glad. don't know if you wanted to say anything more about the day one tech issues. You know, it was just incredibly unfortunate in the end. I don't have the final answer what actually happened, but there seemed like there was some event-wide internet problem. Someone rumors of like they leaked the IP or whatever. I don't think that actually like mattered, but I'm not sure. I'm not an IT guy. And then there was a freaking power outage during the ENCE NRG match, which forced the server to crash and they had to restart it. So, I mean, that was like Overwatch Esports day from hell.
Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, it was like bad weather in Texas.
I think it was just
internet
unlucky.
issues.
Yeah. So
I think they did what they could.
Yeah. I know the team was like really on top of it, and they're a good team.
Yeah.
Like the production team is really solid. Everyone's really good at what they do. So I don't think it was like their fuck up, really.
Yeah, I do feel for ENCE because ENCE more than anybody, they had the power outage and the internet issue on stage, and then yeah, we had to fail and do this where, you know, I was a bit of a fraud, Jake. I'm sorry. I was exposed in both.
I'm so
segments.
bad at this stuff because I don't like think at all about like the history or like the past. I just like once it happens, it's like it goes like I win one ear out the other. You know, like I'm all about the game and I just play the game and try to like keep up with like what's competitively relevant. But I can't remember who was on old teams and like who won and what year. I just forget about it, man. Like
no,
even my whole playing career, I've like forgotten all about it. You know, I remember a few things, but it's like irrelevant now.
When Jaws was like, what team did Smurf play for in 2022? I was like, I completely forgot he played for Seoul Dynasty. That was crazy.
I think I actually knew that one. I was too slow to raise my hand.
Yeah. I can't
remember like what year it was, bro. Come on now. I don't remember what year it was. I know Smurf played for Seoul at some point, but I don't know what year it was.
Yeah.
Dude, it's hard to fill for so long though.
This was a rough.
There was even like the broadcast just went out and they just started like putting up timers and the timer got reset. And then you guys did a filling segment again. The timer got reset.
Yeah, I think that was the annoying part. Like when you're doing this live, like you don't know how long it's gonna be, and especially in the finals because we had that delay to start the grand finals as well. I think Proper was having some issue, and constantly you're hearing like, oh, 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 2 minutes. Like we're gonna get, and then you know the solution is like right there, but they can't quite figure it out, and so you're just filling, and you don't know how long it's gonna take, and you know they're obviously trying to fix it. So
I don't know about you, Johnny, but I don't even think about it when we're filling. I don't even think about like how long it's gonna be or whatever. I'm just like, let's just talk shit. Like let's talk about the game.
Yeah,
let's
I just ran out of things to say
I'm
for
on
the
like
grand
mode
finals.
infinite fill from minute one. You know, I'm like I don't care how long it takes. We'll just it's like streaming. You know, you just show.
Yeah, exactly. It's like doing this podcast. We just talk shit.
I'm talking here.
And we're vibing. Yeah, I did run out of things to say for the grand finals though, so I'm glad it started when it did because otherwise we would have gone off the deep end. What was the thing? The one more thing about the ticket issues on day one. There were some people who mentioned something about like an April Fool's patch. What was that about? Does anyone know?
Oh yeah. People were
apparently on the B stage. I wasn't there, but apparently on the B stage, they're like loaded into the lobby as April Fool's, and then they had to reset it. And another time they were like on quick play settings or something. So
yeah,
they need a course in lobby hosting. I can
that
get
is
Danny to
pretty
give
rough.
that course.
That's like a rough
He's the best lobby
failure.
hoster. You know.
Are you trying to get Danny recruited by OWCS?
You could give the best, like you could make like a video course, maybe, you know, cost that like $30 and then sell it to like 500 people, and then also do like one-on-one coaching for $100
That's a great
on
idea,
lobby
guys.
hosting.
Sounds really
genius,
intelligent. It's a great
actually.
business plan.
I do think Valorant. I don't really follow Valorant that much, but I do think they had some similar issue where they had to like fill for an hour or two because they had the game on the wrong patch. So when I heard that they had the April Fool's patch, I was like, is this even fixable? Like, can they even like update the game? But I guess they sorted it out. So
I truly don't even know how you turn on the April Fool's patch in like a lobby. Like I don't know how to do that.
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea how that happened.
I would just put in a preset code and then it's done. It's like,
yeah. So
yeah,
I don't know.
But maybe it's because it's like it's like a down patch version of the game, right? Like since it's
Yeah, it is on OPR. So,
that
the
maybe
codes
that has to be
don't
weird.
work as well on OPR. They need to like make new
Yeah.
codes for our workshop.
All right, let's get into the competition here a little bit. There was a lot of trash talk going into the event. I'm not gonna give quotes. I'm not gonna point fingers. But there, and honestly, it was really entertaining the week before the event. Commander X had his interviews, and there was a lot of talk about like what region would be stronger, and obviously scrimmed these teams beforehand. So, Korea came out. They played insanely well. They didn't drop a map to any EMEA. What was kind of like?
Only Kevster gets a draw.
Yeah, Kevster got a draw from a bad cap. What changed at the main event? Were any of you two like caught off guard by their level of play? What kind of changed? Like 1 week before the event, you were like pretty confident you at least had a chance, and then evidently at the main event, you know, they were just insanely dominant. So what was the difference come tournament play?
I think they were just more in their element, more comfortable, especially in the match against us. You know, especially going into that tournament, we actually had pretty good, like probably the best out of any Western team results against the Korean teams. Pretty much going even, winning some scrims. It doesn't really matter, right? But I think on match day, like we played more scared and they played more aggressive than they did before, right? So like kind of what Jake is saying is really true. Like if you up the ante at a LAN, the enemy team has to either match your tempo or have really good answers, and it's hard to come up with like quick time decisions in a high pressure situation. And I feel like especially, you know, when we were playing Crazy Raccoon, and I think Gator can probably attest to this too, on the Mauga mirror, like their tempo was just insanely high. Like Circuit Royale, we probably should have won. Ilios, you know, I feel like Circuit Royale, we played up to par, and we probably should have taken that map if not for some, you know, issues.
That overtime push
but
was
I
insane.
feel like Hollywood, we just got crushed, right? And it was just a mirror straight up. Their tempo was just higher, and they were willing to take fights and pressure us, like before we were ready for it. And I think like that was the real difference between like scrimming them and playing them. It's like their tempo was higher and our tempo was lower than it was before. And we couldn't handle the pressure on that map, especially because, you know, when you're 2-0 up in a series, you have a lot of confidence too, right? So they like kind of played to that confidence and played very strong.
Yeah, you like believe in yourselves, and you're like, we can't lose. And then even if you lose some fights, it's like, it's so hard. I feel like in Overwatch, it's just so hard to be defensive in like a LAN environment. Like not only because it's like high pressure, but I think genuinely the fact that you don't hear footsteps that well, or like it's just more like your awareness is going to be worse on LAN always, because there's just more input on you, more sensory distraction. You're never going to be quite as aware as you are in your home comfortable setup where you get all the information and you make the right decision, and we deal with that push and we deal with this push, and playing slow is so good. It's like the super fast tempo, swing the corner and just go is like, it's so unlikely on LAN that people deal with that well. Like, and so I feel like always historically, it's like always been this way, where in the end game LAN environment with the biggest crowd, it's better to be like super confident, super aggressive, even if strategically maybe that's not correct, or like in scrims it wouldn't work. Like some of these ball comps, I think genuinely if teams like scrim back and forth, ball versus Mauga or ball versus Winston, I don't think the ball really works. Like for me at least, I think the ball is like kind of a bait in that way. Like strategically it won't work, but it's so like you have an expert ball player on LAN that is like the perfect LAN comp, is like, just go, my ball, they're all we just shoot the ball, and the soldier's here, you know. It's like it's the perfect comp for LAN. It's like super aggressive, super chaotic, you know, very hard to be disciplined and clean against that comp. And so on LAN it sort of goes to the next level.
Yeah. What about you, Gator? What was your preparation going in, and how was it different with the main event?
My preparation going in was I was not trying to mirror the Korean teams. Like it's one of those things to where, I mean, a week before the event, I was sitting there arguing with one of my players, mind you, Western, that the Korean teams are not that good, and that, you know, Toronto's beating them, ENCE is beating them in scrims because they just got off a plane ride. You know what I mean? Like a week before the scrim, right? And it's like one of those things to where when you watched Korean APAC teams play, and you watched the two finals teams in this tournament play in the other finals tournaments, I mean, it's the same thing as like watching a player POV. Within 1 minute of watching a player POV, you should be able to tell how good they are. Like literally 1 minute. I'm not even joking. I say 30 seconds of a call round. 2 team fights, you should tell how good a player is. So you watch these matches, and it's quite obvious they're just significantly better. They're not derpy. It's significantly faster, significantly less mistakes. I mean, I'm not even joking when I say this. 5 to 10-fold less mistakes, especially from support players. The DPS players are better. The timings are better. Their ults are better. Every single thing is better. On top of all that, their teamwork is better. So I'm not surprised that they railed Western teams when it came down to it. You know what I mean? Like the only teams that even were really that competitive with them were Toronto, which has 3 world champions on their team, right? And they're a really good team. And then the 2 EU teams who essentially have been playing together for years. You know what I mean? And this wasn't even a dive meta, mind you, right? So it's no reason to be delusional and act like they are not. they're not going to be the teams to beat at every single tournament, you know. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about it. Like I think NA players especially are lazy as fuck. Like there's nothing else to it. I think EU are like I think EU players are actually a little bit better in general because at least they have like a style of play that I think they specialize in, which is really
Yeah.
hard to beat. But I
If
think
they
NA
high roll the meta, they could do
yeah,
really well.
exactly. I agree with that. But I think like NA players nowadays are just shit. Like I don't know, they're just lazy. They're not good at anything. They're not the best at anything. They're all one tricks. Like it's easy to exploit them. Like I don't know what to say. Like NA ranked is bad. I'm not surprised is what I mean. You know, I'm really not. Like there's not really much else to it.
How do we like kind of like change that then? Because one of the ideas that
Yeah.
especially the SSG guys brought up.
Yeah.
I heard on Avril's stream, for example, he was
Yeah.
out to dinner with Funny Astro and back
Yeah.
then, and they talked a lot about the scrim bubble, which
Yeah.
we knew about this like years ago that
Yeah.
if you're in Korea, you get better scrims, you get better practice. So
Yeah.
like for NA then, you have probably the worst practice compared to the 3 regions, right?
Oh, absolutely. That's screw Toronto over as well. I actually think they would be better if they were like based in Korea. I actually think they would be even better than they are now. Like their best scrim partner is M80, which is I mean not that good. So like at best their best scrim partner is M80. And I think as far as NA goes, it's mostly mindset. Like you said earlier that the shot guys showed up to the tournament, they're just there to have fun, but like it's like an international event, you know what I mean? Like 6 years ago, I showed up to a tournament as like the 8th place seed. I assure you, I was fucking pissed if I left it at the 8th place seed. You know what I mean? Like I'm showed up to that tournament, and I would be pissed the fuck off if I'm not at least third or fourth internationally, you know? And if I'm being honest, there's only one winner at every tournament, and there's 7 losers. But I think the NA teams are just complacent and happy, and they're like laughing, walking off stage after getting shit on. You know what I mean? So I really think it's mostly mental. These like if you watch the Korean APAC teams. The shitty 6th, 7th, 5th place teams are molding. There's nothing to smile at after losing. You know what I mean? So I actually think it's mostly just mental in general. And then as you said, it's like part time for Western players. Most everybody's in college. The Korean teams, like these guys, I don't know why they're like 8th place in Korea and they're playing for free and spending their entire lives essentially like pursuing pro Overwatch, right? So they're taking it more serious, you know. So it's a lot of different things that add up, but a lot of it's mentality, you know, like I assure you, Shock was happy just making it and being it there and just vibing along the way. But that'll never create a region that's ever going to be competitive with that kind of mindset. So yeah, it's players nowadays are just don't care. I don't know, like they don't have that dog in them, honestly.
Yeah. Casores, I want to talk to you about this because obviously you were the top team in NA for quite some time. Had a lot of prospects of potentially winning this entire thing. But I want to talk about this, like how you improve in a region where maybe you can't get the practice necessary, like you would in Korea, for example. And one example I'd bring in here is, for example, CS:GO, maybe like 10 years ago. You had Brazil actually come in as a region. I can't remember if that was Luminosity or what org that was exactly.
I think LG was one of the first, like,
yeah, but it was like the Fallen team. I think Fallen was like the IGL, and they had a bunch of these. And they came in, it's like no one expected Brazil to be good. And the thought was essentially that they had prepared so much in like custom games. They had set in servers like practice smokes, practice flashes. They had executes and all this on bomb sites. You can't really simulate that kind of practice in Overwatch because it's such a dynamic game, right? You can't prep like a setup. You can't practice your smokes going into a game, right? Like you would in CS:GO, for example. So when you're a team that is dominant in your region like NA and you can't really get the practice like you would in Korea, for example, are you able to some extent to like simulate what it would be like to play a Korean team? Or is there like a limit to like we just like literally cannot practice to get any better than we are because we don't have the practice required to really set us up and prepare for playing as the Korean teams? How did you kind of like prepare for Dallas with that in mind?
I feel like, going back to I feel like in Overwatch 1, it was possible where you could simulate and fear and craft more because it's just the same 6 characters against the same 6 characters, right? But Overwatch now, it's so dynamic and, it's so chaotic. Every team plays something different. There's no way you can simulate for all these teams coming in, right? So it just comes down to the practice you have. But I will be honest, I think like all these excuses of like, oh, Scrim Bubble was so terrible, and we still practice against the EU teams, right? It's not ideal conditions, but we practice against them. We practice against M80. We have like a pretty decent Scrim Bubble. So I think using that as an excuse, you won't get the level of practice you would get if you like boot camp in Korea, right? But I still think that even with the EU and NA practice, in this meta, it actually wasn't that bad because Lucio Kiriko or Lucio Bap is usually the comps like we're supposed to be good at in the Western Hemisphere, right? And I think the way it was played was actually like pretty decent. I think the Korean teams coming here early, like Falcons came like 3 weeks early, right? It's not like we just started playing the Mauga comp like a day before. No, we'd been practicing that for like 4 weeks, even before Falcons came. We tested our meta with them, with that comp, and like we were confident going in, you know? So,
Yeah.
you know, there's honestly no excuses to why we did so bad as we did. We just shit the bed on LAN, and, you know, you only get 2 matches to prove yourself. You get 1 day. We shit the bed, and that's it.
Let's talk about the meta going into the event then, because obviously it was pretty apparent, like almost from the first day, that Mauga was going to have a really big presence in the meta at the main event. Did you guys kind of expect that? You mentioned that you played some Mauga in scrims. Was this evident to you guys going into the event, or was there a lot of like meta? Did the meta evolve during the main event to maybe something you weren't prepared for and you had to make last minute adjustments? Did you know that Korea was going to be so good at these Mauga comps?
I expected more Mauga than there was, to be honest. I think a lot of teams like shied away from the Mauga, but I thought Crazy Raccoons they would mirror the Mauga a lot of the time too, and they did in the upper finals. I think everybody knew that Mauga's really good against dive. It's hard for a monkey to jump into a Mauga. It's good against ball because you could facilitate rotations with shout. Like the whole core issue with that character is just shout is so strong, and the only like decent counters are like Sigma and Ryan. You know. So I think everybody kind of knew Mauga was really strong. I think I actually expected more Mauga than there was.
Yeah, I think when I saw the ENCE Falcons match day one, I was like, it's over. It's a Mauga meta because this is like the best SIG team in the world. I think it's fair to say because Vistola, I think, is maybe the best SIG in the world or like at the level of best in the world on SIG. I don't think there's much value in having a real hierarchy, but like he's like, for me at least, S tier on SIG. Like he just looks so insane on the hero, does everything perfect on the hero, and they get smoked. And I was like, okay, this is not looking good. Like should be the counter comp. Like in theory, you have every tool you would want against a Mauga. You can stun people so they don't lifesteal while they're stunned. You can eat with your shift and shield, so you can block so much lifesteal. And yet you just still are getting smoked, and the backline's just dying every fight because this Genji Venture heroes are just like screwing you up. And like, yeah, you get some kills, but like they win these trades. They win these. The dog fight is so good for Genji Venture and Mauga. I was like, well, that's the value test. Like this is the team that will stop Mauga if it's possible. And they even pick maps to stop Mauga, and they still lose. So for me, after seeing that, I was like, oh, it's a Mauga meta. But I didn't see the Crazy Raccoons ball and hog, man. They're crazy, but I think they also felt they won't win the mirror actually after the upper finals.
Yeah.
I think the ball, like, what's so sick about that is, and what I love about the way the grand finals went is, I don't know how much fans know this, but I would be willing to bet money Crazy Raccoons had like not practiced a lot of ball on a lot of maps they played, or a lot of the comps they played, like with like the Venture Sojourn ball. I don't think they prepared those. I think that's like match time. We're losing the Mauga mirror. How do we put lip on a hit scan? How do we make that happen? I can play ball. Like for me, that's so sick to pull that off and to have like the confidence and the flexibility in the game. Like you guys said, I think Overwatch 2 is just a much more dynamic game. I think especially if there's hero bans, it's going to be even more dynamic, like even more crucial that your player just shows up on match day and is like, guys, you need to go this, I need to go this. Like I need to just have a feel that like this can work. I know how to make it work, and you have to like we all have to figure it out. We don't prep it. We don't talk about how we're gonna play every part of the map. We just need to feel it. And like if you don't feel it, you're not gonna be competitive.
Yeah, I also feel like they played ball and it didn't work sometimes too, right? In the upper finals, Oasis first map, they went ball, they got completely crushed, so they went hog the next time, right? Like they were winging it with a lot of this because they didn't feel like they could win the Mauga mirror, but they had other strengths and they pulled them out at unexpected times. And I think when you catch your opponent off guard, like they caught us off guard on Ruins, Ilios. You know, it's extra strong. You know, I think it's actually pretty weak. If you expect it to come out, you can like mentally prepare for the chaos of playing as ball and you know the rotations. But if you don't expect it to come out, that's when it's at its strongest. And I think they did a better job surprising Falcons and I don't think Falcons were able to surprise, Crazy Raccoons as much.
Yeah, Falcons, what they brought was more like textbook expected stuff that I think from based on the tournament, I was like, I'm not surprised. Falcons playing other stuff. I'm not really surprised. I am surprised they played BAP for so long into the Genji. I thought they would probably swap off that, but they kept believing in it, and then they were winning the Mauga Mare. So that was interesting. I think the Genji was a huge wrench in the works from Crazy Raccoon in the Mauga Mare. I think they were playing a ton of Pharah before that, and then they were like, nope, we're playing Genji. And then and he's saying was popping, but yeah, in the end, Falcons was too good at that mirror. Too clean.
Too clean. What about you, Gator? The compositions going into the event. I think you played more. Your team played more Pharah than any other team going into the event.
Yeah.
How was your preparation when it comes to composition going into the event? And did anything change at the main event, or did you just kind of like try to play your game, make the most out of it?
We didn't change too much. We did underestimate. The one thing we did underestimate was the tempo at which we thought they could get away with playing their Mauga comp. But I think everything was pretty expected in general. I don't think anything was really abnormal. I think we kind of knew where Falcons were. Like Falcons or the Genji. They were kind of like the Brawl Mauga team. Nobody would really want to mirror that. They were probably the best at it. I think Toronto was really close second maybe. So I think they were willing to also die on that hill, because if they had a good day, they probably could have beat Falcons. As far as Crazy Raccoons goes, though, that team is just insanely flexible. So that's just a problem. I actually think.
How do you prep for that team? Like
that's the problem. If you're not, if I'm being honest, I don't think we could have beat them in any mirror. Like I don't think there was any mirror right now that we would have been able to beat them in. Just truthfully, so it's going to be hard to prepare for that. So we just try to focus on winning our one specific mirror, but that also just makes us one-dimensional, right? So it makes it very easy to read. Then they're the ones that get to do the cool counter strats. Oh, on this map, let's like literally playing chess pieces essentially on rollouts. You know what I mean? But that's how you are when you're essentially one trick. So you can't really play much else. It makes it very easy to read you. You know what you're doing. So with that team, you really can't have set rollouts. Your players really have to be very, 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 very smart with their swaps and how they change their play, change their pacing. Like they have to react well, and there's only so much you can actually do versus a team like that, because all those players are really, really smart, and then their staff is also really, really good. I think that staff has always been really good at that. They're kind of just a pain in the ass to play against. They always have four or five man staffs, and they actively set up frameworks and rollouts in every single little thing against each opponent they play. So it's a lot to deal with, especially if you're a small roster and a smaller team, So yeah, they're very, very hard to prepare for.
There's a reason they're the best in the world, man.
There's a reason they're the best in the world. It seriously is. And then I mean, even Falcons, there's a lot of smart players, and their staff is really big as well. And I think they're well-oiled machine coming into the tournament. They knew their groove, and they knew what hill they were gonna die on, and they were gonna die in that rush hill, which I don't blame them. They got Chio Fielder and Hanbin, so. I don't think literally anything was surprise. Honestly, we knew exactly what the EU teams were going to play. I don't think there's really any other surprise other than maybe potentially a limp showing from the NA, but that was pretty much it, really. And I don't even think it was like I can't even see or say it was that bad. Like we were one map away from winning, and then Toronto was in a dogfight every single map with theirs too. That series could have gone either way. So, I actually think everything kind of played out about how I expected, if I'm being honest. Like within like the parameters of
plus or minus a couple maps. Like,
yeah, plus or minus a couple maps.
That's how it goes. I mean, it's a competition, right?
Yeah, that's how it works. Yeah.
That was honestly
I'm not surprised.
One of the feedbacks I got from a couple of people. It's just like the event pretty much went as expected, which meant there was less like exciting like upsets or anything. Just NA they got last, EMEA second, and Korea dominated. So that was pretty straightforward. So yeah, let's talk about those two matches, because I think we've glazed Korea enough at this point and talked about how good they are. So the two other matches that like really matter when it comes to NA and EMEA were the two matches you played against the EMEA team. So Gator, you mentioned you were one map away from beating Space Station. They won 3-2.
Yeah.
How do you kind of like reflect on that series and like what you learned or what you could have done differently against Space Station?
Uh, I feel like that's the series we honestly should have won because they're no different than us. They're essentially one tricks. They're very easy to read. I feel like we had a very set plan going into each map about what to do, and we really did know what we were going to do to win. For instance, for first series, we knew exactly what to go. I mean, we went over literally every step of every hero in these first fights and retakes and so on, and what we're gonna play. We knew what they were gonna play. We win our first map. They picked Midtown, which blew my mind. I really am surprised they picked that. And that one fight where we lost, we just knew exactly what to do versus team. It's just so easy to play the Western teams compared to the other ones because they're just easy to read, same as us. So once we lost that fight with about 3.5 minutes to go, we had 4 ults and they had 1. That's the kind of fights where when you lose those, you don't deserve to win. Like plain and simple, there's nothing else to it. They're retaking with literally 1 shit ult. We have 4 ults, full map, everything, better comp, better everything. If we lose that fight, proceed to get held there for the next 3.5 minutes. And at that point, you realize that you don't deserve to win. You know what I mean? Like you really don't. If you lose those kind of fights, it's just plain and simple. You can call it a fuck up, you can call it what you want, but the good teams don't fuck that shit up. You know what I mean?
It's
so
funny
like,
because people will say you're being like hyperbolic or whatever, but that's literally what Jake says in the green room too. Sometimes it's just like, oh, they fucked up here. I don't deserve to win.
No, you do. No, like, and this is. I'm telling you, this is how the best of the best players and teams think. I assure you. You think, oh, they just fucked up here. Oh, that's so one. But you could have still won. You had 3.5 minutes. It's just not how the game works. It's just not how the game works.
That was your best chance to win, and now it's only getting harder.
And every good team wins where it wins these little moments where it matters most. And if you don't win them, just you don't expect to win the tournament. There's nothing else to it. Don't be surprised when you lose.
I think working with Junkbuck really opened my eyes to this because we would be like almost full holding on defense.
Yeah.
And then where I'm like, we lose the last fight in overtime, full holding hybrid. And then he'd get so pissed off because he's like, we're supposed to win. And that opened my eyes. I'm like, you can't give shit away for free. If you give shit away for free, you're not a real team. You're not here to compete.
Don't ever expect to win.
Yeah. You have to you deserve to lose. Like even though maybe you could still win, you deserve to fucking lose because you lost the 95% to win fight, and now you're gonna win a 50-50? No, you're shit. You're just shit at the game if you lose a 95%. You're never winning a 50-50.
Yes. I assure you, if Falcons or Raccoons lost that fight and then they proceed to lose the series, I assure you, they are running, literally sprinting to the practice room, pulling that exact fight up, and they're fucking screeching at the monitor that this is where the series was lost. And I assure you, that's generally kind of how it is. Maybe it was 1 or 2 every map. For us also, New Queen Street, the first map, the very first fight. I'm not gonna go over it, no point. But I felt like we knew exactly what we were doing that first fight. Fucked it up. We had it won. We had the map, had everything. And when you lose that first fight, you can't be surprised when you lose the map. You know what I mean? When you counter the enemy team and you set yourself up to win, you have to win it. And I don't think there's really anything else to it. There's no point in beating it down. I don't want to call it any individual, but it's just this is how it is. So we were mad at it, but you can only be so mad. So.
I mean, you got as close as possible. You were literally a couple of fights away from advancing. So,
yeah.
Yeah, but that's a couple fights too many, right? It's always
you'll always feel close. You'll always, when you're a bad team, you'll always feel like you should have won or you could have won this. That's how it works.
Is worth exactly that.
Casores. What do you want me to do? Tell him he sucks.
No, I know. No, but yes, but that's what you have. That's the problem. That's the problem. That's the problem with Western in general is that
everybody gets.
They're too fucking nice. Yeah, everybody gets a trophy. Everybody's too fucking nice. When Jake goes and very lightly flame somebody in ranked, you don't understand, it's 10 times fold harsher than that on teams. And that's just how it works, and that's how it is when you want to win and compete. There's nothing else to it.
And I think ideally, my experience coaching is that you want to foster an environment where people are critical of each other. I mean, I think the fans, maybe it's because the Overwatch fans have some it's like the Overwatch fantasy. It's well, we're all here to defend against Talon, and we're fighting to defeat the Omnics, and we just through the power of friendship we'll get this win. No, fuck that shit. It's yo, what the fuck is this? Why would you be here, you fucking idiot? Play with me, man. Why'd you use this ult? You're throwing the game. You ruined the series for us. It's your fault we lost. That's it's what I came to realize, and that's honestly, to be honest, this is kind of why one of the reasons I stepped away from competing is I was man, that is what it takes to win. If you don't have players who are like, or staff or whatever in general, if the environment is not aggressively critical and like, you fucked up, fix this, don't let it happen again. That's the only way you're gonna make a team that wins. Like to turn those 80% fights into 100% fights. That's Crazy Raccoon. That's how you do it. You don't allow mistakes. You don't say, oh, it's okay, it's a mistake. You can write off some mistakes, but you really have to, like, the big ones, you cannot write them off. You have to be super focused on them because you can't let that happen, right? Like, you know, it has to never happen. Or at least the team who wins is the team who fucks up less, right?
Fucks up less, yeah.
Whoever's more committed to playing perfect and like exacting a higher standard of play out of the team is the better team and who wins this series.
I feel like unlucky is the death of NA, you know? Like when players get away with just saying,
oh my god,
that fight was just unlucky, we should have won it, but we didn't win it.
Don't say that,
move on to the next fight.
Don't say that. Don't say that out loud. I'm scarred.
Unlucky, we always say
unlucky or my bad, and they move on.
Yeah. Oh, this game is such bullshit. Oh my god. Oh my god. Why is he there? That's so stupid. Why the fuck would he do that? Why would he like? Oh, why would he flank that? What the fuck do you mean? Why would he flank? He just shit on you.
Yeah, he just killed you and won the fight, bro.
Like fuck.
It looked pretty good to me.
Why is he holding that angle?
Yeah,
why is he? Oh my god! Why is he ulting? Why the fuck would he ult that? What the fuck do you mean? Why do you ult that? They just capped the point off it.
Yeah, they won, dude.
Like.
Yeah, that is crazy tilting for me too. And people are like unlucky. I mean, unlucky is like sometimes you just write things off. Like what I always realize is like you say unlucky because you don't want to say you're not good enough. That's for me as a coach, I'll be okay saying unlucky sometimes because I know if a player like mentally can't handle, or I actually don't have faith in the player. Like if I don't think you're not good enough, and so I know we can't fix you. Like we can't help make you better at this. You're just incapable of improving. That's when we say unlucky because it's a way to like let's focus on things that we can fix that aren't your skill, which is hopeless. Which is fucked, but like, that's
you're not wrong. You're not fucking wrong, though.
It's like you gave up on somebody when you're saying unlucky. You're like, oh my Lucio fucked this beat up. That's unlucky. Like it's like I don't believe you're capable of beating properly. If I believed you were, I would give you feedback and tell you what you fucked up. But I don't believe you can improve, and so it's unlucky.
Yeah,
that's the value of unlucky.
Yeah,
we move on from a player who's unsalvageable.
Yeah, I mean, This for instance, the Saudi Korean teams right now as well. They're the multiple teams are, but they're making swaps, by the way. Those rosters are not the same. So like even the teams that are making it to Saudi are actively looking to improve their roster as well. That's like the mindset where it's like never enough. It's like first place is all that matters. It's so fucking cutthroat. It's I don't want to say it's not. I don't feel like it's toxic though because it's very direct. There is a way to go about it, and there is toxic ways that there are toxic players, of course. But I'm just saying like in general like they're not happy with it. You know like even these NA teams have not swapped up teams for months. I don't know why. Like I don't want to name names, but NRG, TSM, FMCL, LG. I'm not gonna name names, but like my God, I
you could make a really good team if you are willing to. If you are willing to do what's necessary and leave some blood on the ground.
Yes,
you make a good team.
Do you like? How about this? If you guys are all just gonna be shit, why not make one good fucking team and then the other three can all be shit together?
They should really. There's too much. I mean, this is what I feel like from Overwatch League. It was like you just cannibalize each other until you have something strong enough to compete.
Yes,
and like then I think what made you do that is like for me in Overwatch League is like, wow, I lost to these fucking Korean teams 1,000 fucking times. I can't take it anymore. I can't take it because I only want to win, and that's the only thing I care about is winning when I'm competing, which is also why I don't want to compete anymore. It's like actually bad for you. Like, it's a curse. Me and Jungbug were talking after the matches, and it's like he was saying I'm free. You know, I've escaped the curse of competition. But in the end, if you're a player and you want to win, there's no two ways about it. You don't get to like. People would love this dream that you can win with your friends. That's not fucking bullshit, dude. That's a 1 in a million. How about 1 in 100? Which is you're doing whatever it takes. Cut players. Take really you could make some stronger teams in NA. I think if you were willing to cannibalize rosters.
I agree.
But
it's in NA players' defense, I don't want to be too critical.
Maybe I wouldn't either if I was playing for scraps. Honestly.
That's exactly what I was about to say. Is that it's not completely fair to these players because there's a lot of the whole mindset in Western in general. Like there's a lot of pressure from these players' parents, families, friends, so on to do school, to get a job, to do this and that. While in Korea, you could be making $500 a month and you're a pro player, and it's okay that you spend 15 hours a day grinding it out. You know what I mean? But in here, I mean, be honest, your family's sitting there calling you a loser, and they're telling you why the fuck are you not in college, you know, or they're not going to support you. So a lot of these players also, like, it really is part time. And for the NA scene to fully develop, there needs to be more Torontos. There needs to be more teams that are invested. And I really do think NA players can grow. Like, I actually think there is some up and coming players to where, like, they do have actually potential. They really do.
Yeah.
But it's not going to happen under like the current environment. It's just not. It's really not. And you can't fault them for that. It's not fair to fully criticize them. But there is some level of like accountability that they have to take, you know, on their part as well.
Cost of living is so high in America too, right? Like
Yeah.
just the general cost of living. Like you could make like a decent esports salary in Europe, like let's say 1,500 a month. So you can live pretty comfortably in most European countries. If you make
Yes.
1,500 a month in the U.S., I mean, you can't even afford
That's
to
poverty.
rent a house. You know,
You can't
Unless
even
you're,
get
like,
groceries
Los
for that.
that's
Angeles
below the
vibes.
poverty line.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like seriously. So
Yeah, goddamn.
and there's not that much government services in NA because capitalism.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, you can't fault it too much.
No, you're
That's
right.
why I
You're
don't-
right on though with the teams and the environments, and just reflecting on my own career as well. Like being on Rogue when we were successful, it was like being on the Michael Jordan Chicago Bulls. It was just like that was. I want to say toxic, but that was so fucking like psychologically.
Every
just-
good team I've
just
ever
fucking
been on has
difficult.
been like this. When I realized, like watching the Michael Jordan documentary, that was what made me not want to be a pro player
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, that's where this leads. But
It's 'cause
also,
people care. Yeah.
Also, that's the only way to win.
It's
That's
the only way.
If the
Yeah.
other people are willing, if there's anyone in the world who's willing to do it, and I fucking promise you, the Korean teams are willing to do it.
Yeah.
Forever. Then you will never win unless you're willing to do it too. Like, are you willing to sacrifice what they're willing to sacrifice?
Yes.
And to be honest, like I think you make a great point, Gator. And like I want to soften my earlier criticism of like, to be honest, if I was playing pro in NA right now, I probably wouldn't cut my friends to make the best team possible.
No, I would
I'd just be
have
like,
fun.
you know,
I'd have
let's
fun.
play with the boys. Like, we'll try
Yeah.
our best. But
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
I won't go, because the thing that was always hard for me as a player, and even as a staff, was like, I have a personal relationship with this player. I like this player, he's a good guy, but he's like not good enough, and we need to cut him. And that for me, I was like, I hated that. I hated that more than anything, because I don't know. I'm a nice person. I want to be good to my friends. I want to like, you know, like I value my relationships with people and that trust. And yet, if I wasn't willing to fully sacrifice that part of myself, I'm not gonna win. And I came to accept I don't want to sacrifice anymore, so I don't want to win.
Though, because, like, for example, when I was on Rogue, like, if I died with Primal and I was like, oh, I didn't get my Primal off, like, they told me I was garbage. They told me I was absolutely shit.
Yeah.
It was not like, oh, unlucky you didn't get your Primal off. It was like, no, why did you die? You're dog shit. And so, like, it was that every single day, but it led to winning. It led to people playing better. And that was the kind of fucking thing you had to endure. Now, I couldn't do it after more. And so I told the team, like, I quit. We joined Misfits. And I was like, oh, this is a great group. We're having the fucking time of our life. I love those guys. Best friends. But we weren't hard enough. And so we sucked. And we just failed expectations. Because honestly, we weren't hard enough on ourselves. And we're just like, oh, I don't want to badmouth that player or whatever. So it is true to an extent that a different mentality shift in practice and just on improving, frankly, and being honest with players, like not unlucky, right? It does actually yield results a lot of the time, even though it's can be quite difficult. And some people aren't made out to like endure that environment. Like some people can't handle that pressure, right?
But then they shouldn't be a pro player then.
Exactly.
That's seriously the kind of mindset where I've played with so many Koreans. I assure you, if anybody thinks like that, them and every other Western player on my team would be like, dude, you just need to like retire. We've gone through stuff with players like this before. We'd be like, honestly, like maybe it's not for you, bro. Like you probably should just do college or something. Like no hard feelings, you know. I mean, like even like you said earlier, you have to like essentially lose yourself. I mean, the first team I made was in this OWCS, you know, like having to cut some of those players, like that sucked. You know, I was legitimately friends with all of them. I mean, I literally was friends with the 4 players I cut, right? And even Hydra, I messaged him. I'm like, yo, can we talk? He's like, Blake, if you're just gonna cut me, just fucking cut me. I'm like, fuck. I'm like, all right, man. Like, all right, you're cut. Like, I'll talk to you in a few days, kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like fuck. You know, like I didn't want to have to do it, but It's like even in this system where I'm getting fucking paid half minimum wage, you know what I mean? I'm still willing to like put in the effort and put in the ways of trying to win. And even that is like that's where it hits a point to where you start thinking like, fuck, like am I gonna keep doing this? Like am I really gonna keep sitting here doing this like for 450 an hour? Probably not. You know what I mean? Like let's be honest. So at some point, like I don't blame. I thought a couple times, well, man, I'll just make an NA roster and we'll just be second place and won't even have a chance at international and we'll just have fun. But then, like to me, like what's the fun in that too? You know, if I'm just gonna do that, I'll just go get a job making 10x for 10x less stress. What's the fucking point? You know what I mean? Like, it's just so that's the problem with like the whole system, especially in NA, is all these orgs are in, but nobody's really has an incentive to be cutthroat. That's the truth. Nobody really does.
I feel like you used to hate losing more than like being friends with people. Like I feel like always my drive has been I really hate losing, right? And that leads to the emotion, the everything, and it leads to the if you win, there's only one team that wins. It's the highest high, and if you lose, I mean even if you get second place, it feels like really shit. Like I can guarantee you, those Falcons guys, they didn't leave their room. They're gonna be miserable for weeks, but that kind of drives you. It's like a bad breakup makes you like go work out, it makes you work harder, and that's if you don't have that
treat
drive,
second place as a total failure. To be the team that can actually win. I mean, this is what I think the fans do not get is they're like, you did great, second place, like that's awesome, and it's like. Actually, no, that's a complete failure. Like, if you want to ever win a world championship, thinking of second as anything less than a total failure is a mistake.
Yeah, you
and
can't,
for
you
me,
can't do that.
I also I came to believe I couldn't do that anymore. It was like, or I didn't want to do that anymore. I made like the executive decision. It's not worth it anymore. Like I still hated losing to the end, and I don't lose if I don't play. It's like I don't need to win anymore. I can you have to give up the dream of winning to really move on, I think. Which is hard. It's hard because that's why anyone who competes is there, because you dream of being the best in the world at something, about definitively. There's no one can give it to you. That's what I think is beautiful about esports. There's no lucky, the ref made a good call. No, fuck that. It's a computer that determines who wins and lose. Are you good enough? That's the only thing that matters.
Yeah, pure skill. There's no unlucky.
There's no unlucky.
Maybe we should change our mentality on the broadcast next week. Maybe we should.
Need to be more
These guys suck. This is a failure.
What the fuck was that, bro? This guy.
No. I mean, it's different for pro teams. Like our job on the broadcast, I think legitimately, even though I come from a very competitive background, is like it's not my job to shit on these players. That's it's my job to say these guys did great. They had a lot of like exciting things to watch. They brought some cool strats. I mean, as a player or as a coach, that's like not the approach. But for me as a broadcaster, I get to do that. That's why I think it's a fun job.
I wouldn't say we're fake. We're not.
No. But I can focus
on
on positives. It's not like a bad thing. And realistically, it's like crazy for Falcons to be like so upset. It like doesn't make any sense. It's like irrational. But you need to be that irrational to be a world champion.
No, you do.
You're not winning a world championship being like, well, we had some good points here, even though you obviously did. I mean, they played insanely well. They won the upper bracket finals. I think they meta wise, I think they had a better comp. I think the Genji venture is the meta in the end, but they got outstratted on match day with the crazy wild shit from Crazy Raccoon. Like, it sucks.
So players and coaches shitting on each other, it has to happen, right? Like then the analysts also joining in would make it a lot worse. But my point is, I think that cutthroat environment has to be there in scrims, not so much in matches. In matches, like a team has to have each other's back.
You have to move on in the match.
And usually you'll hear like a player's a piece of shit in scrims, but in match they'll always strive for their teammates and they'll start communicating more and they'll start helping more. And that's like a trend you see a lot. I think that has to be the distinction where, on stage and in tournament, like things are already tense enough, right? If you start getting shit on then, it's just going to make you play worse. But in scrims, if you play worse for a little bit, it's actually like fine, it'll make you improve, right? If you're getting shit on, eventually you come out on top, right? Pressure creates diamonds, all that. But I think like in matches and on stage, I think that's when the environment has to be like a little bit more loose. I think especially like our issue as a team was we were very tense playing up there. Like if you watch like against ENCE, first two maps, like we playing more freely, just a lot of mistakes, right? But after that, I think our big issue is we started playing not to lose instead of playing to win. So on Midtown, you could see we had more kills than them. but we lost the map, you know? Like we actually fragged more, but lost the map just because we were too scared to take fights and too scared to like push to the payload and play the objective game. Like, so I feel like we really like playing not to die and, you know, playing safe and secure all the time. But like Jake said, if you play like that on LAN, if you play like that on high stakes, they're the team that's more like pushing and willing to win and more disciplined with their ultimates and using them better and more aggressively and more planned out. That's the team that's gonna win. And you know, at LAN we couldn't do that this time, and maybe we'll talk about it later. But hopefully, going to Esports World Cup and forward, we can show what we've actually got.
I mean, I think that could be a powerful lesson though for a team. Like if you guys can take that. I mean, I do think you guys still have a very good roster. I feel like that was an anomalously weak performance from Toronto, from what we've seen from you guys. So I still have hope for Esports World Cup. We got Tree on M80. That's the hope for NA. Tree is NA's last hope. Is the young kid. Can he carry America to a decent place?
I mean, we weren't even excited when we beat Toronto the first time. Like we beat them. There wasn't any. Oh my God, we just beat Toronto. Like the other, like say NRG beat them. I'm telling you, they would have been screaming. But like when we beat them, we were like, all right, guys, well, I guess we beat them, and we were like more or less laughing that they lost. That was like we didn't even like care, like because it wasn't first place. Nothing. It wasn't first place at all. It didn't mean shit, you know. Like and when you like, it's like the players know, like when it really matters, you know. And I think also like in scrims, for instance, like they're saying it doesn't matter too much, but like every best player I played with, they care about scrims a lot. And like, I mean, if we have a bad day of scrims, they don't just walk off and say, "Oh, it's all good. Like we'll play better tomorrow, guys." Like they're fucking molding after losing like 2 maps. You know, like let's fix this shit right now. Like I'm not in the mood to lose. You know what I mean? Every best team I've been on, every best team I've worked with, every best player I've worked with, they're all the same thing. They show up like it's a match day every day. You know, and that shit really does matter. And you say scrims don't matter, scrims don't matter. They don't matter, results don't matter, but like the effort and intensity you put in them, it does matter. Because yeah, so what it's gonna do is you're gonna learn a lot more if you try harder. And you're also going to facilitate a system where essentially every day feels high stakes. So when you show up to a match or a stage, you've been sweating your nuts off every single day in these scrims, and these scrims feel like matches, you know. But if you essentially are if you're taking the scrims as just scrims, then you're just gonna come choke every time match day comes around, you know. And that's why like a lot of these NA teams, like they don't a lot of them won't even shit talk. A lot of them are just chill. Oh, it's just a scrim. But like really should be playing these as matches for the most part. That's kind of like that's the whole point of a scrimmage, right? You know, you guys play real sports, right? You guys are all athletic bastards, right? Like, you know, those coaches, fucking old geezers are screaming at you. You pull up, you know, intensity, act like this is a match, you know. But that shit actually doesn't matter, you know, to a certain extent. So, it's just, but once again, there's no incentive for these NA players to show up every day. They're going to college. They're waking up at 7 a.m. Like. Because I talked to the FaceTime guys and they're asking, well, how can we essentially facilitate a growth from NA to compete with Korea? I'm like, dude, it's not like these players' hands are broken off spawn. You know what I mean? It's just there's just no incentive. The incentive is just so much less here, and there really is a whole lot more opportunity in America to move on past esports. You know, you hit an age, or you a lot of these kids have free school, but like in Korea, these guys have like middle school education. They literally have nothing else. They full committed. They can't go back. So they're full committed no matter what, you know. But like, how can you convince all these NA players to retire or quit school or go full-time Overwatch and care when they're all working on engineering degrees and this and that, you know, or they're just guaranteed 6 figures off spawn once they graduate, you know? Like, the fuck are you supposed to do with, like, I'm talking literally clicking a couple boxes or writing a fucking one if and statement and a back end of a PC, and then they're gonna make 150, you know what I mean, for fucking doing nothing. But or you can sit here and just, I mean mentally deteriorate yourself. Like, also once you do it for so long, let's be honest, you hit a point to where you only feel relieved when you win. You know what I mean? Like you do kind of hit that point as well. Well, let's be honest. Yeah, you only get you're just satisfied with wins, and then you always expect to win. You know what I mean? You kind of hit that
so fast.
It fades so fast. Oh, it fades so fast. And then also, so when that fades, you hope that this is the system where it's like CS:GO or League, where this guy's just making life-changing money. But that life-changing money isn't around here. It's just not. You know. So that's why the age of Overwatch is probably it's going to start going younger and younger and younger as the older players retire. And that's okay. That's just the system of the esport. But, you know, unless there's becomes some kind of financial incentive.
But it's also going to be people who are like 17, first time on LAN. They play Live, bro.
Yes,
like,
yeah,
welcome to
Yeah.
hell, motherfucker.
Yeah,
You're
that's
about
why-
to get shit on.
That's why I'm worried about NA right now, because I don't see a way back right now versus EU and Korea, where like the EU guys are happy with what they're doing. Like those, it's just, I mean, you know how it works in EU. It's a lot lower, well, not a lower quality. I mean, lower cost of living, and like what they have going on over there. So it just doesn't financially make sense for NA players to go all in like the other regions in general.
It's crazy to think about because like for me, when I joined Overwatch League or like when I went pro in Overwatch, I was like much older than the average pro player because most pros are like going pro at like 18, 19, right?
Yeah.
And I was like 21, almost 22, I think, my first season of Overwatch League.
Yeah.
And so for me, I was like in college. I knew the Overwatch League was coming, and I was like, all right, if I can get a contract to play in the Overwatch League, I'll leave school because it's worth it. Because it's like I knew how big an opportunity it was. Blizzard had all the support behind it. But to be honest, like if I put myself back in those, imagine I'm same position right now. I'm 21, a few years into college, and I'm trying to go pro in Overwatch. To be honest, I would give up. I would just be like, oh, it's not worth it anymore. Like I don't think
I agree.
because for me, I mean, I'm a very practical person. I wouldn't have left college if I didn't have a guaranteed like good income.
I agree.
I think my rookie contract was like $70K for a year, which was like, okay, like that is good enough for me. Like that's like what a lot of people make coming out of college, like or better, honestly.
Yeah.
And then I knew I could go a lot higher than that. That was like a rookie contract with not much competition. And I played really well the first year, and then I got a bigger contract the next year. It was like, okay, this all makes sense. But honestly, right now, maybe I just finished college and maybe maybe I stream casually and then just go get a job or do something.
I think that all comes from there's not enough org incentive in Overwatch right now, right? There needs to be more revenue sharing, less sponsorship restriction. Like there's the list, right? But it comes down to there needs to be more org incentives so that teams want to invest more money, so
and
that
then you
can
get a
make
competitive
that
salary situation.
To get a competitive salary, and you actually want to like try for your spot, right? Like there's so many NA players thinking about retiring right now just because they're not making enough money and they have to like weigh their options, right? Like they're starting to get older, so it's very tough to like make a player try as hard when they could make more money with less stress elsewhere. And like you said, only the teams that stress about the scrims are going to be able to do the best. So I think, going forward, if there's more org incentives and orgs can pay more, and our viewership is actually relatively competitive. Like Rainbow Six Siege players, they make a lot more than our players do right now, and they have a similar amount of viewership as Overwatch does in this tournament. And I think, if they do it right, that can go up because the player base is still growing. So I think you can get there 100%. You can give those org incentives, but they're not there right now, which how players are. They always think in the short term, and coming down from Overwatch, this is such a big step down. How can you motivate people,
I mean, in a way, it's reasonable to be short term, though. If you're like,
of course,
you're like 20 or 19 or something.
Yeah,
it's like you have big choices. Like it's not free to spend a few years doing this. I mean, it's there's an opportunity cost, right? Of like you said, going to college, getting a degree. And like to be honest, I think in the end the game is like sort of an IQ test. If you're like really, really good at the game, you probably can like get a serious job and make big money. Like I don't
if
think
you put the same effort in,
the people who are willing to grind, like you're willing to work 12 hours a day, and you're probably pretty smart, to be honest, if you're like able to handle the complexity of the game at the pace it is. Especially these days with Overwatch, like you can't get away. Like there's no like, I don't think any like stupid players are out there, not at the competitive level. And so you're willing to work that hard for something else. Oh man, you'll be just fine in life. Like you'll do super well. You could go be a doctor. Like like, why are you fucking playing video games?
We've canceled so many scrims for collegiate stuff, and it's like every time collegiate topic comes up, I can't in good conscience tell them not to just like
they should be playing
do this, do that,
get
their best grades, finish their school. Because I mean, Cass pretty much scouted me, right? Like he was my coach season 1 or season 2, and he knows. I mean, I was in third year of college, and they told me they were offering me a contract, right? And I assure you, I did not drop out of college. I was like, I swear to you, I have class tomorrow, and I'm not coming to fucking class until both parties have signed that contract. Like I have class tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. And that was literally back in season 2. That was like pretty much peak Overwatch, what I mean? So and even then, I was not even willing
You
to
need that
drop
ink.
my classes until it was fucking signed in paper and ink, and and even then I was gonna consider it. You know what I mean? So like, how can you even come close to considering anything nowadays? You know, you
Pretty
just can't.
easy to convince somebody to drop out of college when you live in a $16 million house.
Exactly.
And,
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, for like a like a once in a lifetime thing. But
yeah,
this is nowadays.
it
It's
truly
not.
was like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But
I
like,
will say though, I think the hope is really on the ecosystem and the scene because obviously
Yeah.
right now this is like so doomer, but I think the hope is just that for me, I think two things I'm very hopeful about. Number one is the dev team with Overwatch. I think as much as and people are like crying about 5v5 or 6v6,
yeah.
it is like blatantly good management of the game being popular. If the queue time's 25 minutes, bro, the game's not going to be successful. It's like so obvious.
it's fair.
Like wake up, bro. If the queue time is 20 minutes, it's GG.
Yeah.
Like no one's going to fucking play this game. You're competing
Yeah.
with games with 2-second queue times. It's cap if people think, oh, it'll be fine, man. People play tank. No, they fucking won't. They didn't for 5
Yeah.
years.
Okay,
it's
well,
over.
My
But
one thing.
the
my
dev
one-
team is willing to make changes
Yeah,
at a rapid
yeah.
pace to ensure that the game is successful and grows.
Yeah.
That was not true for Overwatch 1. They were like, they had their dream and their vision, and they were like, well, we're gonna do this thing, and we really want to make a PvE game. Like, yeah, okay, it's kind of cool, but like, it's not like I think the new dev team is very good
sure.
for the esport in the end.
Yeah.
We don't
I
have
think
infinite money being poured on the esport, which we had for the first few years, which also works. You could just throw insane quantities of money at the problem, but that's obviously not realistic long term.
I mean,
Yeah.
but did Al really have to die though? Like, did they have to cut all those orgs that were still willing to stay in and spend money? Like, that had endless pockets that were willing to stay in? Because, I mean, even Toronto was one of the teams that was actively wanting to disband the Overwatch League, right? And looky here, they're like the only sucker still left. You know what I mean? But for instance, Atlanta, quite a few other teams voted yes to stay in, and they have deep pockets that will, if I'm being honest, they're never going to get back into esports. They're not going to get back into Overwatch. They enjoyed what the system had to offer, and there was an offer and opportunity on the table to keep some franchise teams around in some capacity, but they wanted to cut that out. And look where we are. You know what I mean? So, like, I mean, and I know for a fact these teams wanted to stay in. There's no point naming them. I would just tell you Atlanta's literally one of them that was willing to build. They were willing to burn another $1 million next year for no reason. Just burn it.
I gotta
You know?
cut in there though, because I think with Toronto, what we were looking is to change the league and stay in, but they weren't willing to change it. So yeah, then we want to go out. But like right now with the Call of Duty League, I don't know if you guys read up on it, but they changed
Oh, yeah.
massively how the system
yeah.
works,
Yeah.
and that league's probably gonna stay around. All Toronto wanted was something similar for the Overwatch League, right?
Yeah.
And then
Oh yeah, of course.
definitely
of
would
course.
have stuck around.
It's not a negative on
We're
Toronto.
still in Overwatch right
Yeah.
now. It's just with how the system was, there wasn't money to be made for the Overwatch League and for the teams, you know. So it just needed to change, and the way it changed is teams just quit after that because there was no good, you know, next season for the Overwatch League. There was no good proposal. If the proposal they came with would have been good,
Yeah.
many teams would have wanted to stay around, right? But if
Yeah.
they didn't change anything, like everybody didn't want it. Like, maybe Atlanta wanted it, you know. Maybe there was like one or two teams, but at the end of the day, if you're a public traded company, you got to start making money at some point, right?
I think the new system is a reflection of that, but it also means that what we have now is potentially enduring and can grow. Or can grow. I mean,
agree.
people use the
Yeah.
word organic a lot, but I mean it can successfully grow without infinite money being poured in from Activision, Blizzard, Microsoft, or whatever, which was never gonna happen, honestly. Like never gonna last forever. I mean, it could work if when interest rates, when the prime rate is super low for all the kids watching. This is how the real world works. The interest rate determines the price of money is the interest rate, and the more you're willing to take more risky venture capital investments, the lower that rate is because there's more appetite for risk. It's just inherently cheaper to take risk. And so as that goes up in the macro economy, things like esports that are heavily reliant on venture capital investment get nuked. And that's just like how the real world is. Like, so there's like exogenous factors. I think of just completely outside of Overwatch, esports, any of that stuff is like the real world comes in and kicks your teeth in. So, you know, in the end, I wouldn't even blame any one team, any company, whatever. It's the real world. It's just how economics works.
I think
my 3 years of economics are paying off.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I think the people in charge now have done a significantly better job. I mean, we've even seen it in the past few months with the dev team. They rolling back things that they did. they see something OP, they triple quadruple nerf it within a month. And this is why I'm not saying 6v6 is better by any means, and it probably just needed to change to begin with. Just game's just too old. But I mean, even in 6v6, we shouldn't have had some of the issues we had if this dev team had control of that game. Like I really do believe
some
that
of the metas that were there for a year plus, like that never.
Yeah.
This new dev team prevents that, and
they
it's
would
so
have
good
nuked
for the
that shit
game.
so hard. Like
Yeah,
I'm telling
yeah,
you, I swear Brig would not have lasted more than 2 months with them. They would have just nuked it until to the literal ground. And then we could have had a 2-2-2, and people could have at least had like one good year, the 2-2-2, right? But and with no double shield and all that bullshit. But so I'm happy about like the dev team recently in general with that. So yeah,
Alright.
I mean, I think the future's bright. It's not too bad
Yeah.
at the end of the day.
Some people are gonna call me out here for moving on from the 6v6 topic, but I
No,
don't
we
think we
can't.
have
Let's
time to
fucking
delve
No,
into
no,
that.
please. I can't do it. I just don't care. Please.
We're not going there.
Please.
I did just want to wrap up the event and chat to you, Casores, about your match against ENCE. Maybe what went wrong in that series, what you learned from that series, and then we can talk about looking ahead towards Face It and the Esports World Cup as well. But yeah, what went wrong against ENCE in that series for you guys?
Yeah, I think I alluded to it a little bit earlier. I think in general we were confident coming in, of course, but I think we are like really tense and playing not to lose instead of playing to win. I think we took too little fights on map, put too little pressure. I think, ENCE's weakness is their backline, and we basically let them play the game for free. So I think, I think we lost to ourselves more so than to ENCE, and I think they played a fantastic series and good to them, but they only play one strat, right? And we had like answers coming into that series, which we felt like was pretty good, like the Mauga Genji on Colosseum, for example, or how we played it on Mecha Base was just like way below our standard. Our ult use, our tempo, and just our discipline in general was just way below par, like how it should be. So I think we all came down to that disappointed. Like here, I mean, you just pulled up a fight. You could see how we're just tossing out ults like 3 at a time, but we're not killing anything because it's not at a critical time. Right? Like it's like here we beat it and we windowed and don't
These
get
are
a
the
single
fights.
kill of it.
Yeah.
Right?
Same
It's
fight
like
us.
it's like
Brutal.
a good example.
Uh-huh.
And then they just build ults like later in the fight. It was like we weren't willing to take the risks needed. And eventually, they just played more loose, and we played very tense. And I think, tense teams, they tend to tunnel vision on things. And I think we tunnel vision a lot on certain aspects and didn't do well in the aspects that were maybe more important. So, no excuses from us. Like, there wasn't a thing with, like, we weren't used to the IEMs or we didn't play Mauga. We started playing it, like, the day before. I was reading some comments, but I think, no excuses. We just played way below par, and, that's on me because I've got this roster. It's an insanely stacked roster. Couldn't perform, so we'll make sure, we learn from this. We take this experience, and I see there's 2 ways we can go, right? We can either grow from this and become like a really good team, or we can crumble under this because, we underperformed and, we're looking to go toward the growing for the bigger tournaments. Nobody remembers who won midseason last year. Sorry, Gator.
Actually,
people,
their pockets do. It was 500K.
it's not
Are
like
you
that
shitting me?
anymore. It's not like that anymore.
I
Trust
know.
me.
Did you see the prize pool? It was 100K for first for this one.
Yep. So that's like gauntlet levels, but nobody remembers the
We
first
need the
tournament.
Esports World Cup this
Everybody
year.
remembers the later
Seriously.
tournaments. So Esports World Cup is where we're
That's the
looking to
real
step it
money.
The Esports World Cup, it's
$400K.
400K, I think, for first. The problem is that there's Falcons, FTG, Yeti, and Crazy Raccoon, and once again. So
Let's be honest, the Korean team's getting first.
So how are we feeling
Very
about
drawn
that,
at this
Casores? Are you gonna say that you with this experience in mind? Do you think you have a better chance at the Esports World Cup? Something you can learn from, make immediate adjustments, and give those teams a run for their money? Or
It's harder.
Did
Way
your
harder.
expectations shift after this event? Maybe.
I think in the West we are the team that has the best chance against the Koreans. Like,
Yeah.
and I think if we're playing at like our best level, meta favors us maybe a little bit. I think we are better than the majority of Korean teams. I'm not gonna sit here and say like, oh, Crazy Raccoon like isn't just the best team right now, and Falcons isn't the second best team. but I do think we could play up to that level, and you could see that on maps like Circle Royale, right?
Yeah.
Like
There's moments where you watch Tournament, like as much as I'm biased for NA, I'm like, okay, this team can actually do well. Like they can hang in the pressure scenario.
Yeah, and we just weren't
with a
able to
very,
show
very
it
strong team.
at the Esports World Cup. There will also be, more matches. And I think I'm not gonna come here and say like we're gonna get first, but I do think we can show way better than we've done, and we can compete with Korean teams.
Yeah. What about you, Gator? How are you looking forward to face it and Esports World Cup?
I'm looking forward to it. It's definitely gonna be harder. I think those teams are gonna be nuts. They're stacking them really, really, really hard. It's just they're literally essentially sending five All-Star Korean rosters. So there's there'll be some roster changes like announcements over there, but I don't think really anything's changed. I think expectations are the same. If you can upset you can upset them. You're open for maybe a specific meta or something. I do think the format might favor Toronto a lot too, which is good because I don't think Toronto is best at anything, but I think they're really, really good. They're good at everything, so I think that really favors them. Where if they can make use of map bans and hero bans, I think they could I actually think they'd have a much better chance with that. I really do. And now that there's that feeling of losing, I think that'll also make them want it more. Maybe, hopefully, if their players like have that dog in them, and then also they won't be maybe pressured this time. It never feels good being expected to win when you're also not favored to win, if that makes sense. Like that fucking sucks. That does not feel good. So I think maybe that'll finally go away now with them. So maybe they'll have less pressure. And so yeah, I think they'll be fine. I think my situation is still. I have 4 players going into Dallas. Like before we went to Dallas, 4 players said they were retiring. Right. So so there's not really much else to do with that. There's some changes being made, so figure that out. But yeah, I don't think any expectations have changed. I think all will be the same. If we can beat them, that'd be sick. If not,
Can you tell us who's not retiring?
Ultraviolet's not retiring. He's good. He's here to stay until he graduates college.
Let's go.
That's it.
UV, I think UV excited me. Watching him play, he played really well. Even in the really pressure scenarios, he was coming up with kills in a moment where like the team desperately needed him to. He was there. So UV is one of those players from NA that I'm still excited about. Still think can hang, can be at the highest level.
I agree.
It's hard because there's only like a couple on each role in all of NA, I feel, that are like this, but UV's one of them.
Even UV, for instance, if I could offer him a 6-figure contract for him to play 15 hours a day, he would, right? Yeah. But it's just the truth is I'm only going to get 90% out of UV. Like it's just he's doing school full time,
and he's smart to only give you 90.
Yes, and that's just how he'd be dumb as shit. And I've never once even considered asking for 100%. You know what I mean? It's just the truth. So so yep. Changes.
But he's good at 90. So. He's such a good player. 90 might be enough. 90 might be enough.
It's crazy because you know how it works. That 90% is half effort, or you can give the 100% for double. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's so much more.
The marginal 10% is so
like
hard.
I know it's so much more.
That's
so
why even now I can be at 90% of my skill potential, even though I just play casually. I'm still at 90% because it's so chill to be at 90.
Yeah. It's just so much more extra work for that. Like you really have to decide if it's worth it. So.
All right. I know we've been on for quite a time. Do you guys have like an out? Do you guys have to be somewhere, like scrims or anything, or do we have time for one more topic?
Let's do it.
All right. So I wanted to bring up the hero bans, and I'm not looking to fucking figure out the perfect answer live here on the broadcast, but at least wanted to get your takes on hero bans coming, and what you'd like it to look like, and how you think it'll affect the scene competitively, and how you coach. So pretty broad, just like your general takes on hero bans in upcoming events.
I think it really rewards teams that are really flexible. I think it rewards, frankly, like player-run teams, right? Like I think with that, you're gonna have to be so more flexible. There's no prepping, like right, because usually before the match, you'll kind of have an inkling of what the enemy team is gonna play. But once you ban the character that they're gonna play that map, you don't know what they're gonna swap to. just too many variables, right? I think there's gonna be like some maps where like some bans are like mainstays, like you're gonna ban Sigma on Circle Royale if you don't have a Sigma player, right? And then teams will have an answer to that. They'll probably play like a Ram or something or Mauga, whatever. But there's so many variables that I think it's hard for teams, but it's so much fun to watch, I think, because even at the Dallas LAN, I felt that teams picking like maps and it not being mirror matchups all the time was like when I was on the desk, it was really easy to talk about. It's just you're being given candy. So I think if they show it well with graphics and they really start explaining why teams ban certain characters, it will be really fun to watch too. It's just you have to highlight it well, like
It makes
why
my
teams are
job more
banning
fun.
certain things.
Yeah, it makes it
and I
more fun.
think
I
your
just wanna-
guys have a lot of like,
yeah, I
but
want
that
to
and
touch
the
on that
viewers do too.
topic because usually when we do the broadcast analyst gig, like we hit pretty broad strokes, like talking about compositions or like ultimates, and now with map picks as well. That gives us like another topic to talk about, like map picks. What do you think to go next? Hero bans, that's another like broad, like big topic. Like where do you think? But it's still like it's not micro, like so. We will talk more about these kind of like big, broad macro topics like map picks, hero bans, stuff like that. But I just don't think we'll ever get to a point where like we'll talk about micro realistically like a lot of the time. And the honest answer is because like it's really hard for the viewer to notice macro. So like we're talking about things that the viewer typically don't recognize and like don't consider. And so like we might as well just be talking about fucking hypotheticals and fucking hope magic at that point, because like they're not gonna pay attention to like how blink cooldown management, and like we could do separate illustrations about that. Jake, you might feel differently. I actually had a telestrator available, so I could actually have like taken clips and like broken them down. It was really hard to do that when you have to be on the desk between every single map, because you have no prep time, you have no way to communicate to the producer like, here's the right clip, I want to see this from this angle, and like here's how I want to set it up. So it was really hard to do that at Dallas. And I'm all for telestrations and all that stuff. But I do feel like we're not gonna get any more micro. It's just gonna be more talking about map picks, more talking about hero bans, compositions, and like the macro stuff that some people like, some people dislike. But it gives us a lot to talk about when it comes to the big picture stuff in series, and maybe that's appealing to some people. So.
And you also have to realize, like, it's hard as like an analyst or a caster to see things in the moment. You're sitting there on the desk watching two screens while the game is going on, right? And it's hard to pick up specific like micro or macro things you want to talk about that like are worth showing to everybody, right? Because a lot of fights just come down to, oh, this player fucked up that ult, or that player was out of position.
And you hope that the observer has an angle that shows that.
Because you can
and
tell
always
you can tell them
from
about
POV.
me in the green room balding about the Lucio beats. Oh, shit beat. They lost. And 2 seconds
so
later, they
that's
cast
the
the beat.
problem. A lot of the reasons people win are actually mistakes, right? And you don't want to make it so negative, and then it just becomes flaming which team has the players playing worse, unironically, So it's like so much you can do with that.
And
really,
it takes a lot of time to do those things, and some people just don't care. You want to keep the broadcast flowing. So I feel like between matches, it could be like a good thing to do, but I feel like during matches, it's almost impossible for casters and analysts to properly give the respect to like certain plays.
Yeah, but I feel like hero bans and map picks at least gives us like meat on the bone. Like we have meaningful stuff we can talk about, and the way we frame it. So I actually really like the way we broke down. I'm fucking hyping myself up here. I'm not trying to base myself, but I actually feel like we had meaningful discussions about the differences between Crazy Raccoons and Falcons, and I kind of liked the topics we talked about and how the game shifted and stuff like that. So that was pretty good. Anyway, going back to hero bans here. Gator, do you think hero bans is good for the scene? And do you what kind of like format would you like to see for the hero bans?
Yeah, I like the hero bans. I don't hate the proposed system where it's essentially you each ban a hero, but you can still keep playing it. You can't keep rebanning the same hero. I think there's I really think there's multiple ways to do it. I think the best way to do it is just to go ahead and test it at this point. I don't think it's not going to be some kind of revolutionary thing. I'm sorry, but if you're staff, you're not going to just all of a sudden start getting your team wins because of the hero you banned. Like, it just doesn't work like that.
If anything, I think this hurts staff. Like, it's like a nerf to how much
I
staff is.
actually agree. Like that, one of the highest impact things you can do is essentially just scout. You can essentially use your team like chess pieces, and you just
Strat
can't
and
really,
counter-strat.
yeah, you really can't, yeah, counter strat. You really can't use that as well with this. You can help ban, you can do bans, you can do map bans, you can help decide that. But also at the end of the day, when it came down to this tournament too with the map bans, like that, nobody had some fucking revolutionary map ban system. You know what I mean? It was funny because we showed up to Dallas, everybody pretty much thought almost the exact same way. There was almost just a direct way that every single staff thought of how to win, and it actually is so funny that ended up us and then the other teams ended up just all picking New Junk City too. Like everybody thought the same way. When the bans first came out, I thought, oh, nobody will ever pick, nobody will ban a Flashpoint. And then what do you know? Come around match time, a few days before, I'm like, fuck. I'm not gonna lie, we might need to pick that shit. And then everybody else thought the same thing, you know? It was like everybody ends up thinking the same way. There's not gonna be some revolutionary way of winning. I think you could do some creative things along the lines of, I don't know, ban Winston, and maybe now you can play D.Va on Gibraltar, which would be cool. Like there's a few different ways you can do it, but at the end of the day, it's not gonna. I think it'll just be more entertaining for the viewer. I don't think it'll change much, and I do think, like Cass said, it'll help player-led teams, and it'll help smart players. It really will, like good adaptable players. So. I think it'll be fun to watch. I actually think it'll just be more fun. It'll also give the desk a lot to talk about as well. I think it's cool talking about on the desk and when you're doing this kind of stuff, like how the teams are thinking, how they want to win, what their mindsets are, like they're trying to go through weaknesses. That's why I also think I think it'd be cool to do a lot of more interviews and more pre-match stuff now coming into it, whether it's talking to more staff, players. Like for instance, if you were like, hey, I want to interview about this match coming up, I'd be very willing to share our mindset and how we're going to try to win this match, as long as it doesn't get aired, like, you know, at the match time, you know, like within reason. I wouldn't give like crazy stuff, but you know, like I just think it'd be very cool to go more into that, and that's very overview. That wouldn't be anything too deep, and it'd be quick.
I mean, one thing they tried to do in the Overwatch League, especially the first 2 years when we were in Burbank, is they tried to do like the NBA does, where like the NBA, they interview player and coaches like between each quarter. Yeah. So you know, in the halftime, because there was an extended break between after map 3, I think. So like, you know, why can't we take 1 minute with, you know, Danny chatting to Gator or something about, you know, like, hey, what do you tell your players going into map 4 or something, you know? Because I mean, the enemy team is not going to listen to that, and you're just like, oh, Gator said that with Danny, like. Yeah,
as long as you know with which staff, it's fine. Like, I've never been opposed to essentially doing anything like that, you know, forcing anything to essentially, like, because you would say that would hurt competitiveness, because I'd give me 1 less minute with my team. As long as the other guys got 1 less minute, I wouldn't care. I wouldn't care if you gave us 2 less minutes.
Fair enough.
It's the same, long as everybody's equal, I don't think it'd matter. I think at the end of the day, that would help. That would be cool.
I think right now with Overwatch 2, there's so much more personality in coaches than like there has been before. Like me and Gator, you know, Chris and Crimzo over in Europe, and then you've got Krusty and Moon, who absolutely, you know, decimated each other in like the shit talk segment they had. I thought that was really funny. I think there's a lot you can do there, you know, like pull coaches on stage, have them talk. Like I feel like they missed out on that kind of by not doing it at all this tournament. I feel like they could have had more coach interviews pre-game. You know, their team goes on stage. They need to set up on their chair anyway. Pull the coaches out. You know, like let them talk to each other. And as long as both coaches, you know, both teams are kind of screwed, and they'll need to have their assistant coaches like do the strategy.
I love when they have they had Krusty and Moon on stage. Like, I like that's a good way to do it. Just have the coaches together. That's how you make it fair. You don't have to fucking time it. You just have them at the same time, and like, hey, now you're done. Get out.
You know, what'd be cool is imagine, you know, so you know, when you're watching the NBA, it'll show the NBA players walking in the back, and they show all the back rooms and all the courts and all they really show a lot of they even show locker rooms sometimes of the coaches hyping up the players as they're about to walk out. And I thought it'd be cool if, imagine they give Jake a camera guy and a mic, and he's just roaming around at halftime,
like,
just like,
I come in, I watch it,
and you
just screaming, and
you see him screaming, and you're like, look, guys, come over here, and you're just like,
come on.
Yeah, it's like
I hear them screaming, peek in the room.
Yeah, it's like Steve Irwin, you know, finding, you're like, oh, come over here, quick. I was like, dude, like, why not do that kind of stuff at this point?
That's a good idea, man.
I feel like this is like the time to try everything. Like, what is you risk
That's
nothing.
a good idea, man.
I think
let me loose with the camera crew. And then
I swear.
The teams just have to know that, like,
I agree.
You're in the facility. There's a chance I pull the camera on you.
Yes.
You don't get I could walk up and you're screaming at your players, and I'm like, what's going on in here?
Yes.
Tell me what is this about? Like,
Yeah, it'd be funny
would
if you
go
like you
crazy.
unironically just poke the camera in the dugout, and then we're just like covering the screen like, what the fuck, Jake?
Get out of here! Get out of here! I'm like, come on, tell me what's going on. Like, how you guys feeling? Like,
yeah. Like,
someone's like, we're fucking pissed, and then they send me away. Like, that's a segment.
it'd be
That's a
awesome.
segment.
Yeah, it'd be so good. It really would. And
Well, that's a
then,
good idea, Gator. Actually, I'm gonna talk to the production
You
about
should.
that. I want to make this happen.
And then you go out there, you catch a couple of the fellas smoking too. You
Get them on the smoke
and
break.
they're like, fuck, this shit's hard, Jake. I don't know if we can fucking do it, man. And then you get back in there and you're like, whoa, well, Jake just caught him while they're smoking, like. I think you have good enough rapport with everybody. Why not? At this
I can
point?
do it.
You know what I mean?
I wonder the play because I know like almost everyone. It was funny going to
Of
LAN. I'm
course.
like, I know all the players and.
Yeah, I feel like the whole I feel like all you guys could do that kind of stuff at this point. Why not? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I mean,
All
I
right,
think
our
we have a lot of
producer
experience,
just
so.
messaged me on Discord who says, yes, we can make this happen.
Yes.
Let's fucking go, dude.
get some cameras walking back in the dugout.
Yeah,
like,
we
there
gotta
needs to be
just-
more behind the scenes shit. Like,
Yeah, I
everybody-
love it.
Like, so when I go back behind the stage, I see all these cords and the whole setup, and there's just
Yeah,
all
we
these
should show
monitors.
that. Like, who
dude,
cares?
it's cool.
It
It's
looks cool.
Like,
Yeah,
you don't understand,
yeah,
like
yeah.
that. People don't realize how much work and effort all the setup.
There's like a
it looks
team
cool.
back there. People don't realize there's a
Yes.
team.
You think
There's
there's
a
like
squad.
two guys back there, but it is a whole, it's like a whole company got hired.
There's a crew.
It's cool. It's cool. I swear
And see
it should
the
all be
back of
shown
the
in this
monitors.
way.
I always love the back of the monitors
Yeah.
on stage. Something about that because I've seen it so many times.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. I mean, catch it all, man. Just catch
I
it
love
all.
it.
at this
I love
point.
it.
No, you're right.
Look,
man,
Avril
this
was
is
doing
awesome.
that a little bit on his
Yeah.
on his
Yeah.
co-stream. He went backstage
Bro,
doing the
come on,
technical
that's
pauses.
not the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's different when you do it on the mainstream, right? It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
and,
yeah,
it's,
yeah,
and it's a little
right.
more produced, and it's a little more, and honestly, we could just tell the teams like, hey, you're in the venue, we can pull the camera on you anytime.
Of course,
you
that's
don't
how it
get to
works.
stop
I mean,
so.
even like if you really want it to be, super safe, and you're like, oh, we can't endanger these players, but like you can pre-record that shit. Like, hey, 30 minutes before he goes live, just like make sure there's no, fucking cigarettes in the background or something,
Yeah, I don't know if we're allowed to show them smoking, maybe, but who
Yeah,
cares?
yeah,
Let's
yeah,
show
yeah,
them
yeah.
smoking. Like,
Yeah, but
yeah.
you can pre-record segments with like Jake walking around the player rooms and just like here they're practicing, and we were allowed to like look at M80. Here's them
I
screaming
like
right
it
now,
live.
We're not
I
Disney.
want
Yeah,
to do
I
it like
want
in the
live. I
middle
think
of the
live.
match.
You know,
I want to do it like at
I-
halftime when the
I
teams
wanna-
are screaming
you
at the
don't
back.
understand, yes,
You
yes,
you just
you
stop
need-
ulting like this,
Yes,
and I need
yes.
to like get in there because that's
Yeah.
the like
Okay,
I want to get there.
yeah.
Like I know Junkbuck. I was like not sure which side Falcons are, and then
Yeah.
I heard Falcons had a good fight, and I hear. I know it's Junkbuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to go in there at that moment and be like, what
Yeah.
is going on in this room?
Yeah.
Dude, also, just like in League of Legends, have like the behind the scenes like cameras, like just the coach room, and then when the halftime is there, it will also be in there. You kind of see the team's mood, and you get the behind the scenes shots.
We saw on the last day. I think we saw Crimso and then the Korean coaches when they popped off at some point. But we should have used that more. Yeah,
Dude,
we should've
literally,
used
it
the
would go
coaches room more.
crazy though. I mean, I know it's risky, but like, come on, we're not on Disney Channel anymore.
Yeah, it's
like,
not Disney Channel League
Like,
anymore.
let's go. Like, let's,
Yeah.
because like honestly, if people saw like the real back scenes, behind the scenes, back rooms stuff, like I think that would go crazy for the fan. People would be like, they would
Yeah.
be blown away because you hear
Yeah.
a lot of pros and ex-pros talk about it. People are, I don't know if people won't believe it or like we could talk about
Yeah,
Plat
yeah,
Chat,
yeah.
but this is like the big enthusiast would watch something like Plat Chat.
Yeah.
The casual viewer would be like mind blown seeing like the reality behind the scenes. And
But
I
even
think
like
that would
when
be
we're,
just
when
awesome.
we're
It would go
like
crazy.
breaking down a match, like going into a match, when we're going into a match, just like here's a camera that's like on the players behind the stage as they're waiting to walk out on stage. That's
Yeah. Even that.
cool, man.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, and I'm really grateful you're bringing up this up, Gator, because I do think in EMEA, I mean, obviously with Christopher and Crimso coaching ENCE and you guys here as well, like I don't think anyone's really opposed to this. At least it's like handled correctly and like done the right way. Like
Yeah, of course.
like it, you guys are for this, and that's awesome. And so I hope they do implement it more of this stuff.
I think a lot of people will not want this because it's like they don't want to.
Doesn't matter. Fuck
But I
'em.
also feel like exactly we should like run roughshod over people who don't want to do this stuff because in the end, I think
It'd be good
now
for the
people can
broadcast
see
for
the
esports.
reality is like the only thing that matters is that the esport succeeds. Like any
Yeah.
other concern is
Yeah.
like, yeah, but then you don't have a job. So congrats. It's how you want it to be, but you're fired. So like, or you don't make
Yeah.
any money. So like for us, the concern that is overridingly important over everything is that we make the best entertainment product possible. That
agree.
it succeeds, it grows. Because honestly, if that's the deal, like if I give you no control and I do whatever I want to make the best show possible, but you get paid double, well, like that's
It's equal for
starts to look
everybody too.
real.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not like it's not oh, we're only gonna do your team this event, you know.
Exactly.
It's everybody.
Everyone has to deal
yeah,
with it.
Yeah. And if some teams are more entertaining or some teams give better action, it is what it is. You know what I mean? Like it is what it is. You know. But
Yeah.
I think it'd be cool.
I feel
I
like
think
things do have to change, right? Like I feel like just staying the same and like doing like what we did in Overwatch League and then just keep copy. It's not gonna work. We need to like become like not a different product, but we need to do
We can
different
keep
things.
getting better.
Like that's
We
why I like
shouldn't-
stuff
we
like the
shouldn't
hero
settle.
bands, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
I just think if you, for instance, if I lost or won as a player within the first 2 to 3 minutes, I'm telling you, your emotions and your demeanor and every single thing is so much different than 10-15 minutes later when you get a nice chilled relaxed on broadcast. You know, it's like it'd just be so much better if
it's like
able
right
to
there.
right then and there, you just
Yeah.
capture them. You know, I think it'd be cool. I think
I
it'd
want to
cool
be
for
like
everyone.
waiting backstage to talk
Yeah.
with the players as they walk off after a win or a loss.
Yeah. And they're
Like-
like, let's fucking go, Jake. You know, like
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
like, yeah,
yeah.
I'll fucking talk. Fuck them. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like they're just like, they're like, fuck them. That shit was easy as fuck. You know what I mean? Because they won't. People won't say that shit 10 minutes after they cool down. But once
Yeah,
they're
yeah. You
hyped
need
up,
the moment of match
Yeah,
intensity
Everyone
just
becomes,
after you win.
yes, everybody just becomes a square the second you get them on a broadcast. It's just, I'll calm down and because you come off a high. Really,
You know,
you really do.
One of the things I'm thinking about now, what if it's like, I know we do like our post-match interviews and stuff, but what if
Yeah.
it's like literally like, I'm backstage with a mic and a camera, and like as they win, like in the moment they win and the players are like cheering and hugging each other,
Yeah.
I'm like, Mike in your face, how do you feel right now? Like, what's going on right now? Like,
Yeah.
no,
I'm
that's
not.
how
I'm
it
not
should
joking.
be.
No, I swear,
Yes,
I'm not joking. I'm not joking.
fucking around.
No,
I want to be
don't-
there at the winning
yeah.
moment and be
Yeah.
like, oh my,
100%.
this is incredible for you guys. Like, I'm like
Yeah.
in the moment with and bring the
you
fans
don't-
into it.
Yeah, you don't go shove the mic up to the losing team, but like once you
No,
get the
no.
guys started, and then you like I don't know 30 meters away or like 50 feet away, you turn to the side, you see
We
like a
look
clipboard
at the camera
thrown,
and it's just
they're
me and I'm like,
Yeah.
the Falcons just lost.
Falcons,
Like, this
and
is a
they're all
huge
looking at the
loss for them.
ground.
Yeah,
Some guys
yeah.
kicking some shit way off to the side, but you don't go fuck with them, but you capture
But
it. You know?
exactly.
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
So
I'm like,
just to contextualize, you're like it pulls so much energy away if you're like, oh, here's Danny's waiting, we're standing on stage in
Oh,
front
it's
of the
on.
fans.
Yeah,
so like,
it's still gone. It's gone. It's gone. It's all
Yeah.
gone.
well, we can still do that, but like that's a different thing than this thing. This is a thing. It's like
that's-
the feeling.
that's-
It's not
yes,
about.
it's not. You don't get the emotion in that.
interview.
You get a level-headed, not even level-headed, because I'm telling you, come down from a high. You essentially get just a low energy version of what you could have gotten. You really do, because you don't understand like how much energy that takes. And when you win, you're in that last. I mean, Jake, in your big matches, you're in that last like 30 seconds or a minute. You're like, I'm telling you, it's a feeling that most people will never ever feel unless they do some kind of competition. It's just the truth, right? So when you come down off that, your body's just exhausted. It's just not
It's
the
like
same.
everything. You're
Yeah.
drained. You're
this-
you have every emotion, and then like.
Yeah.
It's crazy because as a player, it's like in the last 3 seconds when you know you're gonna win or like you
Yeah.
feel like you're gonna win. If you're an experienced player, you're
Yeah.
like suppressing it so hard.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Oh, yeah, you are. Of
like
course you are.
know
Yeah.
you can win and you
And
know
you're
you're about to
waiting,
win.
and you're waiting for
but
it, and you're fucking
hold
waiting,
that
yeah.
shit in because if you
Yeah.
also experience, you've also probably thrown those situations
Yes.
because you're overhyped.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
you hold it back so hard, and
Yeah.
then in the moment it's over and you go slow mo. It's like the purest release. And
Yeah.
I would love to bring the fans into that because I don't think that's something the fans have ever seen.
No, they haven't. They really haven't.
Not up close. Not right there. Let me talk to you 2 seconds after you win. You just got up. You're hugging your teammates. I mean, think about NBA or the Super Bowl. You got the guys like they win the Super Bowl. They're like fucking doing snow angels and the confetti on the field, and we're out there with the
porters are running
camera
in.
like on the
Yeah.
field with them. No
Yeah,
one wants
yeah.
to see anything else. Like
No,
because
yeah.
that's the thing itself.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So I want to follow up on this though. We just this was the first major. There was one of 2 LAN events for the entire
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
There needs to be more time spent thinking about how can we improve the online portion, stages, group stages, playoffs. So I mean, Gator, you're on a roll on this episode. So like,
Yeah.
what can we do to improve the online experience when you guys are playing like online matches from home and stuff like that? Because like one thing that obviously sucks now
Yeah.
is that we don't even have player camps.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. You know what we should do? This is what we should do. We should do the same thing. There should be player camps. And they should be forced. I don't see any reason why you're not. You're in the entertainment industry. Like, if you don't want to be on camera, why the fuck are you here? You know what I mean? It doesn't matter. Like, you should be on camera. And Overwatch, like, you had to be on camera. You know, I think you should be on camera, and then you join your Discord as you please. And I think what you do is after when the winning team is sitting there screaming and shit, I should be hearing a little Discord notification of Jake popping in there. Nice job, guys. Nice job. We're live though. We're live. Start going right away. Why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
I
Like,
love
just
that
get in there early. Just get in there early. Like,
it's so true that you
know
need
you're
to
on
be in that
live.
first 30 seconds to
Yeah,
a minute,
yeah,
or
I
else you
agree.
miss it.
Yeah, you miss it. You come down at the high again. It's the
They
same thing.
broadcast that anyway, right? They broadcast the after. Like, if Jake can come in there and ask some questions, like, I think
Yeah, 'cause
it'd
the
be an
answers in
interesting, it'd be a really good thing.
Yeah.
Obviously, you know, for the teams themselves, when they win, you know, they're gonna say some stuff that might be crazy, but I think that's what we need.
They said some
We
crazy
need more
stuff earlier
personality.
this year that
But
wasn't censored.
you get the whole
so.
team. Why not the whole team? Why
Yeah,
not
exactly,
just,
exactly.
don't-
Not interview.
Like, why is
who's
this
gonna pop
derpy
off?
ass?
Everyone's because the
I get-
emotion is
yeah.
together. It's
No,
because
I
you're
get,
a team, right?
I get messages in Discord. Oh, hey, can so and so do an interview after? And I'm like, I guess sure. They'll give you a blatant, boring interview. They might shit talk why they're coming down off the high if you want. But if you just join the Discord and start and you get the whole team while they're still going, why not? Like,
Yeah,
that would be
I love
the
it.
that's the fun of it. Like, that's the whole fun of it.
Because
if you-
not many players are like excited to do an interview. They come down and they're like, "Yeah, I'll do an interview." It's like, "Oh my god, I want to fucking do this shit." You know,
Yeah.
like most players, that's how it is. But you just don't even ask. You just show up like, "Yeah, I'm in the Discord. Oh, that's incredible, guys. That's a huge win for you." Like, you know, like, and then
yeah.
how are you guys feeling? You know, like that's literally what I say every time because I just let whoever wants to pop off, somebody's gonna pop off because they
someone's gonna
they
say
are
they're
popping
fucking
off.
shit. Those guys
Yeah,
are so
yeah,
fucking
yeah.
bad. Like, that shit was a waste of my fucking time. You know what I mean? They were like, Jake, I knew you.
We're the best in the world.
Yeah, you're the best chaser in the world. You know.
But we need that. We need that.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the beauty. That's why we compete is that. And it's funny because I don't know if the fans have ever seen it. Like not in that way.
Yeah.
Maybe a couple times, but it's hard to capture.
Everything's already set up. You're already in Discord. You already have.
Yeah.
Nothing really changes. For the top 8 matches, you have to go in Discord. Anyways, and there already is like there's just 2 or 3 producers in there. You're not in a private Discord to begin with.
Come to me
Not
on the
private.
desk and I'm like, all right, we're like that's an incredible win. We're live now, going to like team chat with
Yeah. and then
Toronto Defiant.
Yeah, a camera's with you, and then like all the teammates around him or something, and you could just see him yapping right away. You know.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
some kind, you can easily get some kind of.
Yeah, the
thing for that.
webcams, you know, not everybody's on an org anymore. Luckily, there is more is coming in, but
Yeah.
I think for some you know teams, you might have to like discuss with them well in advance. Like, can you guys set this up? Like, but everybody's in a Discord anyway. Surely, like every player could put on like a ninja like on their screen, and you can produce it that way. It's not easy, but I think it's doable, and I think then you elevate like the online experience because. Like you
I
said,
feel like it
now
should
it
be
feels like
heavily
everybody's just
encouraged.
waiting for the majors, right? Everybody's just
Yeah.
waiting for the majors, but Stockholm is so far.
I mean,
It's
even
really far.
online, even if we don't have cams, I still think like if we could go to the Discord in the
Yeah, even
moment
that.
they win,
Right,
like
even
I'm
that.
like ready and I'm like joining in like we go to slow mo and I want to be in the Discord. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, I agree.
like they're still in the
those
game. They
moments-
haven't
those
even
moments
closed
need
the
to be-
game yet.
Those moments
Because
need to be
moments-
captured.
Yeah, they're captured, but they're not asked questions, right? They're already captured. Like people are screaming, like they show
Yeah.
it on the stream, so people know that they're gonna like. They shouldn't say like something bad, or they'll say something bad on purpose, but not so bad that.
But like, I mean,
it's
I could,
terrible,
I
but
like if
you
I
can,
come
like,
in and I'm like,
prod
how are you
things out
guys
of them.
feeling? You know, I feel like we would get really good answers,
Yeah,
even
yeah, I
from
agree.
players who like don't think of themselves as like comfortable on broadcast and giving answers.
Yeah.
We would get it because the emotion is so high. You
Yeah.
don't think about what you're gonna say. Someone's just
And-
gonna say something. You know, they're not.
Yeah, and what you do is you when you do that kind of stuff, you get rivalries and a lot of saltiness and bitterness between the teams really fast, and then you get more shit talk, and then you get more this
I
and
mean,
that,
I
and it
really
builds
hope
up
we get all
stories so
chat
well.
enabled.
Yeah,
I want
no,
all
I
chat
don't know.
back
Yeah,
so bad.
all chat should be here. I don't know why
Exactly.
it's not.
I don't
Yeah,
like that.
why is it not?
decision.
Yeah,
Maybe
I
it
don't-
was always shit talking us. Like they type so much.
Oh yeah,
That should be shown. Like how they
yeah.
fell flat on their face when they kept typing.
Yeah. I think
Oh,
that's it's part of the game. You know.
Yeah, I mean, it is part
I've
of the
had
game.
so many players tell me that like, oh, all chat wasn't on. Like they were shit talking us the entire match. Like that was like the most entertaining part of the series.
Yeah.
And it just
It
wasn't
is,
there.
yeah,
So
I don't get why that isn't on. It adds another layer, and generally people don't say that bad stuff like on there anyway. And like Jake said, we're not on Disney Plus anymore.
Yeah, I feel like we can. I mean, we have some f bombs here and there. You know, we do like live listening.
you'll get banned from Battle.net. You don't want to do it anymore. So
Yeah.
No, we're not.
Yeah.
It's not. I don't think it's covered by the Battle.net code of conduct. It's
maybe. But
for private
yeah,
games,
I
right?
mean, if you
cares?
like, the players are not that stupid either. Like, obviously the freak, the sex big dick, whatever. Like, that was a freak accident because the player didn't know. Last row didn't know, I guess, that all chat was on and that was gonna be shown, right? Like, if you tell players that all chat is on, they're not gonna say like abhorrent shit. I guess there's some concern that like you give a lot of I don't want to say power. Yeah, maybe like power. You give a lot of power to potentially a player that's not in an org that makes no income from Overwatch, and that like now gets power to like put a lot of text on broadcast that might be undesirable.
Somebody could
But-
say
Yeah,
something
But they would
stupid
throw their whole
dangerous,
career
but-
away if they say
Exactly.
something like
It
that.
would
There's
still
no
be
loser.
crazy. We
They
make a
throw their
rule
whole
that like
career
if
away
you
doing that.
drop a slur on broadcast, you don't get your prize money or something.
Yeah,
yeah.
no,
good
I mean,
luck.
yeah, that's on you if you're doing that kind of shit, anyways.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
I think and then at the events, I mean, I don't know how this works for you guys, but I don't see any reason why the easy to say broadcast can't be 30 minutes longer and 30 minutes earlier, and say you're like as before the match. I assure you, when you guys are just starting broadcast, every time the broadcast starts, you know how this works, Jakes. Every team is either getting ready to go up on the stage, or they're all doing like their warm ups, their practice, like they're all that stuff. So I feel like there's no reason why you can't walk around backstage practice rooms and stuff too, because it really is a cool system to show. There was a lot of effort put into the private area that nobody got to see but the teams.
Like I
You
love
know?
when in the NBA they have the guys like walking through the back rooms of the stadiums,
Yes,
and they're
it's
like
so
in
cool.
their outfits and
Yeah,
stuff. And
yeah,
it's like
yeah.
and like maybe they'll get a question in like
Yeah.
oh and like or the desk is like on audio,
Yeah.
but the video is like
Yeah.
we're seeing them in the back room, and it's like
Yeah.
Kevin Durant looks locked, he's focused, he's ready
Yes,
to go, like
yes.
you know, like
And then, or like you know, you guys do your pre-show. Say the pre-show is 30 minutes long, right? Why can't it be an hour and a half long? But what you're doing is you're essentially taking breaks every time Jake pings in. And I know it's easy to say. Jake pings in and goes, "Oh, I'm over by the Toronto room, and I got these guys. Ping it over to me real quick. I got the Toronto guys before the match, or I got these guys
Yeah,
as they're
yeah,
walking.
yeah.
I want to walk up with these guys as they're walking to the
yeah,
venue.
let me walk from the practice room to the stage with them.
And let's show the whole walk as a pro player. See what happens. Let's go literally all the way up to the back, and let's see how it works. You know, the guys are setting up. You know. I mean, you know. But there's just so much room to
I
do
think
that kind
people
of
would
stuff
really
now.
love to like unveil, because I think Overwatch League is a very produced product.
Yeah.
But I think part of the joy of esports, and maybe something that I think was lost, not intentionally, but
Yeah.
sort of by accident in all that
Yeah.
production, is there's like something you can't replicate about the raw reality and like the
No, you can't.
real, like the back room of the stadium is not
Yeah.
dressed up nice. There's not sponsor logos. It's
No, there's
just
not.
the back room of the stadium. There's like pallets of like
Yeah.
food in the
Yeah,
side,
yeah,
like the
yeah.
concession stand.
Yeah.
There's like workers walking back and forth.
Yeah.
That stuff is,
I think it's the coolest
really
part.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah. I agree.
Even on Formula One, like before they start racing on Formula One, they spend like 30 minutes just sitting like by the cars, waiting to race. And so like all the drivers, they hang around on the track for like 30 minutes, and there's someone from Sky Sports like usually walking around like, hey, you're looking forward to this race, and they talk to 2 minutes, move on, talk to the next driver, move on, talk to a celebrity who's there, move on, talk to the next driver, and they're just like chatting. They're like walking around on the track, just chatting to drivers and like getting their thoughts ahead of the race, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's
bring
very,
people
like,
into.
natural
It's not just the
conversation.
game; it's the
It's
people.
very, it's very like you said, it's like normal life. Like it's very like it makes the drivers personable. They're not like on
100%.
a fucking. They're not on a pillar. They're not on a
I mean, there's a reason
Yeah.
reality television is like the most successful TV segment in the last 20 years, right? Like reality is like everything now. People love reality TV because there's something deeply appealing about reality, and
Yeah.
that's what it is. As much as you can say reality TV is like produced and stuff, of course it is, but it is also people love that unscripted thing and like the little chaotic. And then I think you do need somebody to like kind of run it, but I feel like we could do that. I feel like that's doable.
Yeah, you
Especially at LAN. At LAN, that's when it really
Especially-
peaks. I think
especially at
off
LAN.
LAN you can do something. We could do some things, but LAN
Yeah.
is where you really
But
can run it.
by the time you do that scripted, and every 10 minutes after the match, every bit of energy is gone. The build up starts on match day from the day you wake up, and it builds up all the way up until when you're playing the match, and then it goes up until the match is over. And the second the match gets over, it's just a nosedive down.
Yeah.
So
it's like
it's
over.
your
It's all done.
chances maybe a few minutes after, really a minute after, within the first minute after. That's where all that motion buildup just plummets. It's gone. It's all gone. You know, so you got to do before and then you got to do right after, and that's going to be by far the best product.
Yeah, it's like the casters should do their final line, because a lot of the play-by-play casters have like the closing line of the match that like this team won, and then it's like, and we're just gonna go to the team right now backstage.
Oh, instantly, yeah. They can come back 5 minutes later once all the other stuff gets going. You know, I think that's how they kind of do it. Generally speaking, on ES, like when you do real sports, they're in there right after.
Someone's down on the field in the NFL.
Instantly.
Like,
and then after they bring it back and they're like, oh wow, that was interesting. That was a interesting interview. Or, oh wow, he's pissed off. Or oh, you know, they actually react to the people that are in, you know, on the field, or essentially like within in the teams right after.
Final question here, as it relates to this stuff. You did the pre-recorded team videos, the team interviews. What did you think of those? Because I'm gonna be honest, one of the problems with M80 was that it was pretty much only Liar talking.
I wasn't there either.
It's obviously understandable for, you know, Happy and Pelican, of course. Not as good at English, especially for content video like that. But what did you think about those pre-recorded videos? How would you have done anything differently from your perspective?
My flight got delayed, so I actually didn't get there till right when those videos got done. So I actually missed that night, or my flight got canceled. But for instance, our Koreans, it's funny because our Koreans and Hawk were probably the biggest squares in that thing. Like they just had no emotion, quite boring. Like you would think honestly, you would essentially think they're quite just boring fuckers. You know what I mean? But what's funny is they're boring, or you can say they're boring, but they're emotional, right? So when it comes down to match time, I assure you, between the three of them, you can catch quite a lot of emotions before the game, throughout the game, halftime, and right after the game. I assure you, Hawk is quite emotional and stands out quite a lot with his personality, I would say. You know, in the heat of the moment, he actually has a hard time controlling his emotions, if anything, right? But you're just gonna get some very plain you know, version of him in these kind of interview settings. I mean, I think if I was there, maybe I could have baited him and riled him up a little bit, but I wasn't there to do that, at least, so that was unfortunate. Normally I can help you guys out and squeeze a little something out.
They had you out picking up Chick-fil-A.
yeah, right, and for real, actually. So I mean, there wasn't much I could, you know, it wasn't much we can do there, but yeah, I mean, I don't hate them, but I also think you gotta. I know it sounds. Okay, I don't want to rag on the interviewers because I did see a few different interviewers, but I think you need to ask the right questions. You need to actually poke the bear. You need to essentially do what I do, where you're just baiting around people up for fun. You know what I mean? You really do. You need to ask the right questions.
There was right that, I think, with the European teams.
There you go. So there was some right, like, exactly, like he knows them well, right? So I think there's right things to ask, and if you're in the scene, like, I mean, they could have asked me what to ask him. I could have told you what to rile him up with. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of different ways to do it about.
I think in general, like, they were pretty
good. I don't hate it though. I think it was good. I think it was quite good.
Yeah, even the Korean teams, like, I was surprised. Like Lip just like shit talked his teammate. I think it was Chorong, just like, oh, I scrimmed with this guy once, and like I didn't think he was any good, but now I guess he's all right. So you know, even that stuff was pretty good. I got Twisted Minds. Oh, it's not a lot there, guys, but I think for the most part, like, a lot of those videos, they were pretty entertaining, and they got some stuff
it was
out
good.
of them.
I like it. Yeah, it's good. They did they've done it in the past. They do that a lot on Korean broadcasts in general. I think that's like something they like, and I think it was well implemented. It was quite interesting for sure.
I think one thing that I didn't like about it is it's so easy when you're in like a team interview to just have the one or two people that always speak just keep speaking, right? Like for our team, it was just, you know, Sugar Free and RuPaul speaking the whole time. I think if you do that, and then also do like some one-on-one interviews with some players and ask them like specific spicy questions, like, you know, Ham had to play Chorong, you know, he had to play Crazy Raccoon. Like, how do you feel, you know, playing against your old teammate in Chorong? Like, are you gonna win against him? Like, I feel like that's more interesting than just like asking the general, like, are you confident? Like, they asked Sugar Free, like, you know, how do you feel if you have to play against PGE? Like he said, you know, he gave some spicy answer. They played that clip like 20 million times, right? If you just got more of that, where it's like kind of spicy and you kind of bait it out, it's better. But I don't think you're always gonna get that in like a Team V1 interview setting. I think you also have to like take players aside more and, you know, look to do it with one player, because I can guarantee you, like, Pelican could give some spicy answers.
True.
But you know, Shu could give some spicy answers. One, there was no translator for that. But two, also, you know, they weren't like picked a side to like and ask those questions. So they're just gonna keep quiet and let Sugar Free and RuPaul do the talking. you know, for
Yeah,
our
I
team,
do
for
agree with that.
example.
I do agree with
So
that.
it's like, you know, there's obvious like people on the team who are gonna talk, but you know, those aren't necessarily always the people you want to have talk, right?
Yeah, you could get more heat if you know the players. You know who's like willing to
Yeah,
get,
if
who's
you're
like
close to them,
hardcore.
like surely
you know
Jake could
them.
talk to Merritt, you know, because they were teammates before, and get
Yeah,
at
I
least
don't
a
know
little
if I could
something.
get. I don't know if
you
anyone get anything
Oh,
out of Merit though.
okay.
Merit's
Oh,
special
okay.
case.
Yeah.
I don't think he's talking
But you
shit.
get what I mean. You get what I mean.
Yeah.
I could get
I-
Happy and Pelly though. Happy Pelly, yeah.
Yeah, I think also it can be I do appreciate the, you know, in Jersey at the studio and all that, but I also think it wouldn't be awful to do something like that, but you also find time or find ways to come by the practice. Like I mean, I think Reinforce, you asked to come by our practice room at one point, and like if you know you which I was like, oh yeah, come by literally anytime, I don't care, you know what I mean, like come by.
It's sick
and
to
you-
come
you-
by with a camera and
Yeah,
just be like
so-
non-produced
yeah,
segment of just
yes.
like what's going on back here. You know,
Yeah.
we're at the stadium. Like,
Yeah.
what are you guys thinking? And then you be like, this is
Yeah.
some bullshit. Or like, you know, we're fucking owning these kids and the scrim is gonna be easy and the mat. You know,
Yeah,
who
yeah,
knows
yeah.
what's gonna. We don't know what's gonna happen, but we can just without, because I feel like we did those produced interviews and it's like, all right, we're gonna make a little bites of content that we can, you know, use different points throughout the tournament to highlight these players.
Yeah.
But we could also do that with ironically less production, cheaper, more
No,
guerrilla
I actually
style.
agree. Yeah, and it's
like
actually
let's show
more,
the real thing. It's not like we had a
Yeah.
little interview set up.
Yeah.
You know, let's go to the practice room. Let's look at your folding chair and the PC.
Yeah,
and,
no, exactly. You show up and you see the one team, because the practice rooms, the chair was quite lower than the desk, so teams are
People put
doing
the
all
box.
these makeshift like setups, you know, which nobody complained about it because everybody had the same setups. You can't be mad if other people have the same setup, right? So it was just funny seeing everybody find their different ways to get their practice that they needed. You know, you go by, it was interesting. Some teams had trashy rooms. Some teams are eating the same thing every day. You'd see the bag of everything. I was like, what the hell's going on in here? You know what I mean?
Yeah, but we should be able to
just-
stand behind our product and like what we do behind the scenes. It should be for all to see, you know.
Like I would show what it really is like, you know. It's cool.
And it's always
I
like
think
that,
it's the coolest
honestly.
part.
The practice rooms are
yeah.
pretty nice this time. They were spacious.
Oh, they're awesome. Of course, yeah.
But
They've been like that
I've also
pretty much
seen
every time.
real shit practice rooms. They're
Yeah.
like a little hallway curtain at World
Dude,
Cup.
you
We had
know-
the most
you know,
scrubbed
awesome it-
practice room of all time.
The Toronto one would have been so cool to show last year. I know it was
Yeah,
Overwatch
yeah, the
League,
lockers,
but like,
that was
and you
sick.
know,
Yeah.
it's funny because Overwatch League, I think they were ashamed to show that, but I swear going through those doors and those locker rooms would have been the coolest thing ever to show. Like, this is where esports
People like
is
the
practicing.
camera comes through the
Yeah,
door and it's like
yeah.
I'm like, all right, come on in. They're
There's
practicing
locker
right
rooms.
now.
MTV
Yeah.
cribs.
Our bathroom,
Yeah.
our bathroom is literally the urinal's 4 foot from
Someone's
this guy's
taking
PC.
a piss and comes out while we're
Like, we have to actually be like, yo, nobody use this pot to shit. Like, go to the other one over there. It's just too fucking close to our PCs. Don't do that shit
no,
there.
you don't be stanking
You know
it
what I
up.
mean? Yeah. So like, it's just, it'd be cool. I think it'd be cool. Why not? Like, what do you have to lose? Is what I say. You know, and literally nothing.
I like it. I like it.
Yeah, and I
Let's
think
open
a lot
our
of the,
minds.
And a lot of the fans around now have seen the same shit over and over. They want to either see something new, or you want to tap into some other group that would think it's interesting to see some, oh my god, finally an esport that shows some behind the scenes shit, or shows something they're not proud of, but that's just how it is. You know what I mean? Why not?
Yeah. It's like I feel like at this point, anyone who plays, like, you know the score, you know how it really is. And like, what if we were really unafraid? What if we were like really open and transparent and we were saying like, you know, we're gonna give you this most raw, unvarnished look. I feel like that's like copying some of the success that reality TV as a concept has had in the last 20 years. Is like, people love that shit. You know, people thought for years, we can't make a movie where we have all these like complex, you know, creative decisions. Like, we have to show the audience everything 3 times.
Yeah.
And then nowadays people are like, fuck that shit. We're going to make whatever we want. And like, people respond to that. People love the craziness and the chaos and the reality and the dirtiness, like the trash in the room.
Yeah.
That's actually like, we need to show that. Because
No,
there's something
I agree.
incredible about it.
Like, you come by, you should be coming by the room and be like you should be
This place is a
Hawk.
mess. What's
Like,
going on?
the place is a mess. Hawk, what the hell is going on in here? You know what I mean?
Like, Gator, you're not running a tight ship over here.
Yeah,
Where's the guy?
like what the hell's going on? I'm like, sorry, buddy, it's a one-man show. What the fuck do you want from me? You're like,
Yeah.
I'll
Like,
clean up at the end of the day, buddy. I don't have to tell you.
yeah,
You know?
people, but I think that would be amazing to show people.
Yeah.
I feel like people would respond to that. It would be like great viral moments on social
Yeah.
media. It'd be like, dude, look at this practice room. Like, let's show PGE's mouse pad on cam. Go to the practice room. PG, what the hell is this
Oh, that
mouse
would've
pad,
been-
bro?
yeah.
Imagine we had that on broadcast. That would
I
be fucking
know.
beautiful.
Yeah, it'd been awesome. You know, you show them that, you show their setups. It'd be good. It'd be good.
I think
Also,
it's-
our literal Sorry, go on, Casores.
If you have it in like their practice room or their comfort area, they're gonna share more. Like I feel like if you put somebody on a desk or behind a camera,
Or in an interview
on
setup where it's
stage,
all pretty and it's lit well.
it's
Like
really
Yeah.
hard. Like it takes a certain kind of person.
It
But
does. And
if you like
yeah.
come to them more naturally, it's so much easier. You know, like you're
It
gonna
is.
get a lot more. I think.
And they're also really comfortable around their teammates as well. You can get a lot out of them if they're in, a lot of Overwatch players are very reclusive. They're not outgoing, but if they're around the people they're comfortable around, you know what I mean. Then plus a couple guys coming in, they're gonna be comfortable. Rather than some super official environment where they feel like they have to be, very just official. I think it'd be cool.
Yeah, for sure. All right, this has been an absolute banger of an episode. We talked a lot about a lot of productive stuff right there, and the producers are listening. They're DMing me and Jake as we speak. So
Let's go.
hopefully we
They're
can
DMing you. Keep
expect
this
some stuff
Gator
from
guy
that.
rambling. He's got some good ideas.
Yeah,
This guy isn't
well,
the idiot we thought he was.
There's a couple brain cells up there.
There's a couple. Yeah, but I mean also like the target demographic, like the people listening to this podcast, the people watching the broadcast, like they're gamers.
Yeah.
They're literally gamers. So
Yeah.
it's not like they probably eat McDonald's and these fried chicken places and they got stuff lying around too. It's
Yeah.
like, come on, like what are we afraid of? Like
Yeah.
we're not like we are
Like,
we're gamers.
we should
at
be
the end
proud
the
of who we are,
Yeah,
and like,
yeah,
or at least willing
yes.
to show it. And
I
like,
agree.
if you're not proud of it, then change, bro. Like, don't just
Yeah.
hide that shit.
Yeah. Or
That's
like
relatable.
there was so much stuff to show back. There's guys just pounding down monsters. There's a couple times there's guys literally laying on the floor tired. I'd be like, it'd be good just to walk up to that fucker, put a camera on, and be like, buddy, you laying down before match? He's like, yeah, I'm tired, man. I don't know what to tell you. I'm getting a rest.
Yeah. All right. This has been awesome. I need to get you guys back on the podcast. But anyway, you got Facing preparing for next week.
Yep.
We'll see what roster M80 fields. It's gonna be interesting. See what you can scrap together. But yeah, thank you guys for being on. We do this Bren's Player of the Week segment at the end of every show where like someone gets Player of the Week or whatever. It doesn't need to be anyone. It can be anyone. It doesn't have to be Overwatch. Just give me a name. Just give me a name. Give me a shout out.
A shout out. I'm shouting out Boostio. Because I don't know why. I don't even follow Valorant that much, but he's just always shit talking on the timeline, so it's entertaining.
He's bringing heat.
He's bringing heat. And old Overwatch fella. Yeah.
Love that. All right. There you go. Sky Foxes. Was that the teammates one?
Yeah,
I
he
can't
was.
remember.
Yeah, he was. He was on that team. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Could have
There
done
you go.
better on that quiz than you showed, Johnny.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
Johnny's the historian.
How do you know that? How do you
anything.
know that? That's so random to know that.
Well, it's different on stage, Gator. It's different on
That's
stage.
fair,
Gator.
that's fair. Okay, understood.
I'm
Yeah,
in my
that's
home.
fair.
I have a setup. Yeah, I got
Yeah, got
Wikipedia
it.
pulled up. Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. All right. Thank you guys for being on. We're gonna wrap it up here. We'll
Sounds
be back
good.
with Plat Chat. We'll do like the talent regular episode too. But yeah, this was a nice special edition episode. So thank you guys for being on, and good luck with Facing.
Thanks,
Thank you
fellas.
so much.
Yep.
All right.
Bye.
Later,
See ya.
guys.
Later.